brand new space. I had to build one anyway because we've got a brand new way to present. And I'm excited and super relieved as a long-suffering monthly meetup organizer who makes wonderful volunteers go through terrible hoops to do presentations. This one seems pretty good. All the problems we had a minute ago were due to my network in my house. I got 2 different Wi-Fis here. One of them's, I guess, unhappy with whatever the plugin does. While I was building a new space, I thought, why not actually change the space? And this one's kind of appropriate because the Microsoft keynote was done in a bunch of clones of this space. And they just changed the back in the stage and stuff, and you'll see that later. So it kind of helps to set the scale. I'm going to show you these 2D images of this super amazing presentation. And if you see it in 2D, you're like, those are crappy CG transitions from like an Amiga video toaster from the 80s. So that's what they look like. They're real-time graphics meant to run on a Quest, you know, for a room filled with avatars and mixed audio and stuff. But when you were here in this room and it was 3D and they're controlling the lighting and the models and they're teleporting in people, live video, and they're talking to each other, it was damn impressive. And apparently they're never going to show it a second time. So they didn't explain what they're going to do. I got a hot tip the night before, took the morning off work, and was super impressed. And then I just tell people about it now because there's no way for them to see it. So that's what this mysterious photo is on the event this month. That was the grand finale. And I have a video clip. We'll get to that in a minute. But since we're starting here with this new presentation, I wanted to hedge bets, but also kind of exercise this way of doing things. So I thought it'd be fun to just do what we haven't been able to do for a year, which is basically share a browser and bring up clips and expect them to work. So I wanted to start with just a little bit of news and kind of exercising things. I was going to share this out, but since I didn't get to it in time, if you guys want to add stuff on here, maybe just shout it out and I'll Google it and we'll try to find it. Because if I get my headset adjusted right here, I can see my laptop pretty well, and I can get rid of these hands and actually drive the laptop while looking in this direction.
That's disturbing.
Yeah, it is. I was thinking about when you guys move into Rec Room for the grand finale, like on a PC, could you run both apps? Would you get tracking in both apps? Would you be here in alt space deforming your body and running into walls while in Rec Room you're doing something that makes sense? That'd be pretty awesome. Not gonna happen on a Quest though. I can't quite read that. If we're having, one of the things that we lost here was my Zoom. This will help you guys a lot. Not that it's important to read this slide, but in general, as we're going, let me know when the text is too small and I'll adjust everything. So that's an exercise too. It's going to vary if you're on Quest 1 or Quest 2 a little bit. And this is our first time doing it. Okay, I don't have to right click that. God, that's hard to read. Everything's fine. Everything's good.
Here, Zach. Yeah,
it's pretty good. On the Quest 1.
Well, that's not the right link. Let's try that again. Clearly, that's the right link.
God,
I don't know what that says.
Yeah, that looks right.
I'm on a 1.
Oh, this is
the screen. Is it real? It seems really choppy for me.
I don't know what's happening. This is like a browser problem.
Link. Yeah, it's an old link.
Yeah, but how did I get this old link when right here it says what the current link is, which is the correct link?
And the link might not be the same.
Copy and paste.
But how would I do that? I mean, I'm bad at computers, I know. But how did I accomplish this?
You were just really interested in LA Noire that day, and you just copied that link.
Look at the URL though.
Oh,
it looks great.
There's an extra letter at the end of the URL. Extra letter.
Extra letter equals LA Noire.
Extra letter leads you to the other article. That's their 4-page, I think.
404, yeah.
Which
What should I have my anti-aliasing and world render scale set at?
It's a good question because you're on a Quest 1. Is anybody else on Quest 1?
Yeah, I think
I
I'm
am
at 1.4, and it's pretty bad.
I got mine at 1.8.
And we're fighting three different things. The first is the render scale. The second is mip mapping. But the most obvious one to my eyes is the foveated rendering. So does it look okay in the center, or does it not look okay anywhere? For yours, Scott.
Look okay, but that's about it, Zach.
Yeah, and
it looks pretty good for me. It was Thong was saying it was pretty choppy for him.
The other thing is there's a setting. There's a setting called high quality video, and I have that one enabled also. And I think that.
But did that help necessarily? We're not sure if that helps because the client is no longer decoding video. Well, I guess it is. It's decoding the stream for my laptop, but the MSAA won't help what's on the screen. The render scale will up to a point before you crash your Quest. I have 1.4 for Quest 2. You're doing 2x?
Yeah, that's what I was doing on my Quest yesterday.
On Quest 2?
Quest 2.
Quest 2,
2x
yes.
and 1.4 looks pretty good.
I'm on 1.6 on a Quest 1.
On Quest 1.
1.6. Quest 1.
I'm at 1.8
and
Quest 1.
You guys are always welcome to come forward. That's why I turned off the blockers. In some cases, that's all that's going to help. If it's mip mapping, you can come down on the grass even. To do that, you have to teleport to the stage and then back up onto the grass because the grass is a naughty zone in alt space. So
and that
let's get a video.
Corrects for the mip mapping problems if you're getting low res textures.
The mip mapping is not something we can affect.
Looks good.
That's not bad.
Stage dive.
It's not that bad for me with the 1.8 and stuff.
Yeah, I think the video will look okay to most people, and I think the text will be the challenge.
Yeah.
Right.
The video's playing pretty smooth though. It just stopped.
Yeah, it'll freeze from time to time, and I think that's when I get a hiccup on my network. So what we're looking at is the Lynx R1. There really aren't competitive AR headsets in the world. There's HoloLens, there's HoloLens 2, and there's that other one. HoloLens 1.5. The Lynx is different because it's video pass-through only. There is no clear display, there is no waveguides or anything like that. What you're actually looking at is plastic ring. Obviously, the real world is outside of the ring. Inside the ring is 4 lenses that are configured like this. And in the center is eye tracking, and around the edges are 4 folded optical paths to get it closer to your face.
And it looks like you're going to give yourself laser eye surgery.
So if you actually look at the device, which is this, here, let me make that big. This is the device that hangs from a halo. These is 2 GoPros just to do the filming. That was the point of those. This hangs in front of your face, and you can see how it bumps out like it's trying to stab you in the eye.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
So I'm pretty sure you'll own it for 20 minutes, and then you'll scratch the lenses and ask how to replace them, and they'll say it's $2,000.
I think you're going to scratch your cornea first.
I don't think it's that easy to scratch. Squishy. So if you watch the video one more time, you can see a little bit of the artifacts, kind of a crosshair looking artifact on the lenses.
Mm-hmm. That's the
yeah, and I think that'll be more obvious in practice because your eyes are a lot better than this GoPro filtered through 3 layers of MPEG compression. What's also interesting though is you can see a little bit of the exposure level problems that we'll have with pass-through. As the windows move in front of the AR headset and get displayed on the screen, you see them just blow out, which you'd expect. Well, come on, play.
Oh, interesting.
So that will be the kind of the catch, but I just think this is really impressive. You can see how good the latency is. You can see some jitter, but you don't see like a delay of the entire image because they're doing time warp. If you watch really close, right here on the left, you can see the time warp wiggling in and out like it does on Quest.
I can see at the very top edge of the screen black too. I'm guessing means it's not full field of view.
Yep. Yeah, you can see kind of the polygon edges there. Yep. Hard to say because the GoPro might be farther back than a human eye would be. A lot of those things are almost impossible to represent on film the same way. But you see the wiggling, that's time warp style reprojection in effect. So that's how they're getting the latency to be reasonable. And that's very promising. And then the sides are wide open as it hangs in front of your face, so you probably won't get sick no matter what happens. It's your peripheral vision's clear. So that's coming soon. That's in the $2,000 to $3,000 range. You know, without trade shows, I don't know how we're going to get to try it. Mark, you got to buy that one.
It's pretty
cool.
What's the release date?
Still not super nailed down, but within the next year.
Okay. How about the SDK and all that? Any ideas on that stuff?
I don't know if they've said that. I know that at one point they were testing with Steam VR, with OpenVR.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a good question. I was super skeptical until like they showed functional stuff like that, and then it's clearly kind of a contender on the hardware front. Software is always very hard.
They should have just shown that same 3D model that Magic Leap showed with the stupid rock elemental. Just to
they should have gone to a gymnasium and had a whale jumping out of the ground.
That's what I would have done, look, this works here, That other one didn't do this,
It's a turtle. You have to have a turtle.
Speaking of Magic Leap, who I was just bagging on, they're actually doing a second release here by the end of the year, and their new management is really sober and communicates clearly. So it's a new day at Magic Leap.
Does it do the whale yet?
Well, they haven't said that it does anything yet. They just said it's business focused, and I don't think they're gonna do the smoke and mirrors.
Nice.
Yes, very much.
Interesting. Why did you call the artifacts 4-way folded lens artifacts?
Yeah, so if you're in a consumer VR headset right now, you've got just one lens for each eye, but it's Fresnel lenses, which are technically stacked lenses. They look like a bunch of rings. There's a lot of different ways to do lenses. That's the absolute cheapest way. That's why we have them in consumer. They've got strange lenses here that there's actually 4 of them. And instead of looking more or less straight at the screen, the light bounces 3 times. It bounces off an inside reflective surface, off the outside, and then bounces back to the screen.
The artifacts you're talking about are because of this bouncing from those.
Exactly, lenses. And mostly because of the transition between each of the 4. That's where this crosshair pattern is a little bit visible on the video.
So it's like a fine bezel between the different regions of the lenses.
Yeah. And for folks that were here, we're at last month. I guess that was a different location. That was a totally different environment. But I had Matt say something. Hey, we should pull up your thing. Is that Googleable? The 3M page for your...
the 3M thing? Yeah, I can pull it up.
I can just Google it here. I can Bing it.
Bing it? There you go.
What's it called?
It has a code name.
Yeah, they paid for their advertising placement.
That's probably it.
Yep,
that's it.
So I might kill the audio on this one. We'll see how this goes. What kind of aspect? What's happening?
It's cool to see 3M doing this. You do the work on this, Matt? That's awesome.
So we did a demo for them last year for CES and a demo this year for CES.
Oh, nice.
And this year's was actually on a prototype hardware that actually used this optics. Last year's was on and that was based on the same hardware that's in the Quest 2.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
With 3M optics. And then the last year's one was they sourced their own screen. They 3D printed the optics, and they just used. Okay. We built a system that used Vive trackers to provide the 6DoF.
Oh, nice.
But the one for this year was a full standalone device that had all of the hardware in it based on Snapdragon.
will you get to put that on your face sometime? Does it come into the Minnesota 3M?
There's like 4 of them that exist in the United States, and at some point here, yes, we're doing some more work on that. At some point, I actually get to try it out. But
back up here,
I've used the actual optics on the 3D printed rig with just like a kind of a mediocre screen, and the optics are amazing. The screen was not so great, but when you put it on like an optical target that has the infinite resolution, basically, the optics are super clear, no distortion. It's great. You can tell that 100% of the problem is the screen, not nothing with the optics at all.
That's kind of why this is exciting, because we've had these Fresnel lenses the entire time, and they were always a weak point to get the cost way down. When like IEEE VR, old school academics and vendors were talking about Oculus in the early days, that was the main complaint. It's like, it's cheap, but everything's blurry, because they were used to stacking 3 or 4 glass lenses and charging, prices that were 4 or 5 digits per headset.
There is an image or a video of the actual prototype headset that kind of shows how much smaller that the front of the headset is. Yeah. You might want to just fast forward through a bit of that, because they kind of
welcome everyone.
Whoops.
Good morning.
Pause that.
How loud is that? Is that deafening?
Loud. Yes.
Yeah.
Loud.
You probably have to go.
I got a tweak I can do here.
It's off now. It's muted.
Yeah, I know. I'm just gonna keep us safe.
All right.
Set the max volume lower, because it goes way too high in here. All right. No preview.
Yeah, they're using like a weird video player. So there's the headset. I think they'll put it on. So
yeah, and they disassemble it at the end too.
Yeah. They did cheat a little bit, and it has the battery at the back. So it takes repositions a bunch of substance.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is amazing just for the seeing engineers put in front of a camera perspective. But they actually do disassemble it. Oh, don't freeze on me now. They talk about all the boring parts. There's some lenses.
So that's the screen in his hand.
There we go. There it is. So it's also exciting because there has been no innovation, and you can make things much, much thinner by by folding the optics, by having them trace over the same path more than once. The Valve Index has 2 lenses in it, but one of them still a Fresnel. But that was how they tried to get wider clarity instead of just the center. So very, very thin. So make sure you get that to the meeting, Matt. We'll put it on, and nobody will drop it.
No promises.
But, and other than the announcement of kind of shipping to manufacturers and prototypers, has there been any other news since this came out in January or February?
I don't think so. So they were getting ready to do production. So they were showing this off to vendors, basically, to allow them to order them for their production devices.
Oops. Where are we? There we are. Okay. Yeah, and I wanted to have this kind of a discussion thing. How many people have mucked around with for OS 25 and 26? Such as, there's a mouse cursor that works properly now. Anybody else tried that?
And pro tip, if you have a Logitech USB wireless mouse, you can plug the receiver in, and you can use the mouse with wireless, and it works great.
Nice.
And I've used it a little bit, and my quick takeaway is it's really nice for well, what you'd think keyboard and mouse work, but until you can see that keyboard, you're going to be fumbling around and you're going to kind of break yourself out of your concentration anyway. But in terms of data entry, it's amazing. It just works good. Yeah, where are you? That was Brock, right?
It sounds like his voice.
I don't see him though. Oh, he's in the floor. Look down. He's under thong.
Yes, apparently I'm here, but not here. In VR, I cannot see the
I can see his hair. He's in the floor.
I was wondering who that was.
So can you get your menu open, Brock?
I don't get it.
If you can re-enter the space is one of the choices on there. And then I'll take you back. The other thing you can try is clicking your left thumbstick. It'll recenter you. That might help. Or it might make it worse. Good luck.
Maybe he needs a lesson.
We'll see when he comes back. Yeah, that there is somehow you can, in the space you can get into a black hole area that's either the app software crashing, the client-side software, or it's like in out of bounds area, but you just quit and restart the app if you can't use your menu. But it's been stable so far. So back to the slide here. So the mouse now moves in 3D space like you'd think, as opposed to across your eyes one at a time, like it was still a cursor from the Android OS underneath. And probably the only good use for it right now is the web browser. The web browser lets you have multiple windows now, and you can kind of position them and make them wider or skinnier, and you can mouse across all those. So you can turn off your controllers, you can turn off hand tracking, and just use a keyboard and a mouse.
Do you guys know if hubs work? USB hubs, or can you only put in one device?
USB hub? It should still work, yeah. I've done that a lot leading up to this, but I'm using Bluetooth now. Matt, did you do a hub to plug in more than one? USB hub? You might be muted. VR.
In the bathroom.
Hubs definitely worked in the past.
Okay.
I used one to plug in a gigabit Ethernet adapter to do some troubleshooting of wireless. That now I've heard does not work anymore. They took out the driver for Ethernet. But yeah, I've had 3 things plugged into the side of my Quest. It's a little hard on the USB port. You got to kind of mechanically protect it.
Mm-hmm.
But the only way you kind of then keep yourself in the zone is you turn on your pass-through environment. So instead of having a 3D world, you can make your VR wallpaper to be the pass-through video, which will make you anxious and sick pretty quickly because the depth isn't right. But if you cover your field of view with a bunch of windows from the web browser or something, then it won't make you sick. And then you can see your keyboard, importantly, and your mouse, so you're not fumbling around for it blind. And then it's very, very productive, but you still have to ask yourself, why am I not using a monitor? And the only answer I can think of is you're on, vacation or something. You're on an airplane. I don't know. But the only thing that's missing right now is cut and paste between apps. There is no shared clipboard. Mm-hmm. So you can type in the browser, you can go and type in the app store. You can't move between them easily. You can find things in the browser, click them to open them in the app store. That works fine. But
hey, Zach, doesn't it feel like they're just doing that now? So when the future devices are higher resolution and better than your monitors, it'll just be ready to go and they'll have the experience. That's definitely what it feels like to me.
I think so. And there's probably some people on the business side that are asking for it. That's how they spun it when they debuted it, that it was for business.
I mean, if you've got the ability to go
because
mouse
they haven't
past
tried it.
Other browsers, you should be able to have the ability to, before too long, to have the ability to use the paste buffer.
Yep. Yeah. And two, if you think of businesses, right, they're going to have this neat VR thing that you're doing. And then you'll get to the part where you have to enter a support ticket for the office. And then you'll whip out your mouse and use this 2D interface that was made 10 years ago. And nobody will be willing to update it for 3D UI, and then you'll go back to VR after you've done that. I'd say the resolution is actually there in the Quest 2. Now that I got the IPD expander in here, no trouble reading stuff even over extended periods of time. But still, monitor's cheaper, and you know, you can see stuff like your keyboard while you're using it, and your dog and cat and people around you. So, but interesting that it's there. It opens up some avenues to probably monkey around on the web. I would think most of all. Without a keyboard and mouse, you're not going to type in VR for very long before you get angry. With me, that's 0 seconds of controller typing before I get angry. So I was going to record that video and show you exactly what it looks like, but they also lock down pass-through access. So if you're an ADB streaming video using screen copy or anything else, as soon as pass-through kicks in, that goes black now. So either 25 or 26, they released really close together. For some reason, when you're setting the Guardian boundary, you can still see it over ADB, but like this browser thing I was doing, or even if I just double tap to turn on pass-through, the little mirror, whoops, okay, good. The little mirrored window just goes black. So as we'll get to later with the Zuckerberg news, they're moving more and more towards lockdown, consumerizing, and everything else. So it's just gradual steps as we get as Zuck. Never both. The other neat new feature was you can add a couch, but I think that might be a Quest 2 only. Can anybody confirm that?
I haven't
It's
tried.
a 26 only thing, and I haven't been able to load 26 yet on my wall.
Oh, maybe the Quest 1 doesn't do it. They had so many problems on 24 with Quest 1s that I think they kind of learned their lesson a little bit. That maybe the performance can kind of vary more than they thought, but they were hurting a lot of people with their Quest 1. Is it blinking for you guys? Kind of randomly?
A little bit.
Keep going green.
I don't know what that is. But anyway, the couch is not as wonderful and exciting as it sounds, but it's pretty handy. So you just set up a space that is the couch, and then if you walk over to it, it asks if you want to play space. So what it's good for is when you switch games and you were doing a standing Beat Saber, now you're going to go sit down and do alt space or something. You just walk over to your chair and it'll ask you if you want to switch play spaces, and yes, it's done. So it's really fast. If your chair is too close to your real play space, I had to just disable mine. It'll constantly be popping you in and out of chaperone as you accidentally move too close to it. So you do want to separate them apart. But it's not this mind-blowing feature. It's just kind of a neat convenience thing that they're starting to add in more and more of. And then the one that the press got excited about, our niche VR enthusiast press, was the 120 hertz support for Quest, which is Quest 2 only. Sorry, Scott, which is kind of amazing. But here's what all the news is based on, was this link right here. I don't want to authenticate. Let's see if this works. Son of a bitch. All right, I got this. Where's the good browser?
Oh, there's all the private tabs. All right.
Yep, there they are. All of them.
Holy tab.
Yeah, that's
Should
nothing.
be logged in.
I'm with you, Matt.
It's less than normal. So I don't know when this
You can still see
started,
the
but
icons.
yeah, I don't know when this started, but they're publishing a public roadmap for Quest, and
It's been since Facebook Connect. That's when they put it up.
okay.
Right immediately after.
Everything in here is really, really boring, but very useful. So bringing a keyboard overlay into every app, not just the developers that felt like they wanted to code for it. they're already doing some stuff like that with the universal menu, which if you think of VR, which is a lot harder than it sounds. It's not like a normal windowing system. But everything's boring. And then down here at the bottom, Q2 2021, confidence level. What this means is that they're going to attempt to do it, and that's neat because on Quest 1 they didn't think ahead and they just got FCC cert for and then
70, 72 or whatever.
Yeah, and then couldn't ever advance it past that because they would have had to recertify with the FCC, and nobody wanted to spend that money. So they did something forward thinking this time and left themselves some room to play around. So that'd be pretty neat. Great on them, like the ping pong. What's the good ping pong game?
11.
Yeah, 11 table tennis. Stuff that's real simple like that. If they carved out their environments. But pretty interesting stuff.
I think it'd be good for Oculus Link if it can do that as well. So you need to have PC.
Yeah,
VR
that's where it'd get
with
used.
120.
What the heck is this?
The update to 90 has been really good for things like Supernatural, which is kind of like Beat Saber for working out. That's really great for tracking and not missing targets.
Yeah.
I could see Beat Saber maybe doing something and maybe making that work. That'd be the place.
I suppose they own it now. Yeah, it'd be a great showcase title.
It would, yeah.
It really kills the battery though.
I bet. And just a quick shout out in case people weren't aware, but I put App Store. I should have put App Lab, but a bunch of stuff is showing up on what they call the App Lab, which is the unlisted store. And because it's unlisted, if you're not aware, you don't know where to go looking for it and you'll never find it. But I did notice that it shows up in your friends' activities if they've been using an App Lab title. It just go green.
It did for a second, but it seems like it's back.
Oh, I'm not seeing it. I mean, that's confidence inspiring.
And your voice is cutting out. It must be a upload bandwidth thing, I'm guessing.
Oh, geez. But the one to call out in there is called Multibrush. Tiltbrush went open source when Google jettisoned more VR stuff. And Multibrush is there, and it's got networking for free with a friend and do some painting and collaboration stuff. And one of the things, let's see if I can explain this without visuals, but one of the interesting things is to actually recreate your room. So this idea of a couch or a chair is easier, but draw your chair by tracing it with your controller and do it. And then position those the same in real life and sit in them, and just having a solid object where you can see this, VR object is kind of mind-blowing experience. In the same VR experience, because you assume they think it's solid too. That's what your brain kind of interprets it as. It's a neat little view of things to come that we'll get once we can scan our rooms for real. And let me I'm gonna lower resolution and see if it helps my bandwidth at all. Actually, let's take a look at my bandwidth. I have to go yell at my son. Oops, that's resource monitor.
It's a Fortnite update that's killing us.
Well, better not be.
Or a Windows update.
It's not using a lot.
Don't even hover
No,
over
my
the
Windows update is delayed and scheduled. See, it's going to wait until tomorrow.
Yeah, that's been making me anxious the whole night and yesterday.
I know. I was hoping Scott Lemke would be here so I can my mastery of Windows Update. Moving on then, real quick. Hopefully this will play a little better.
With AR devices, we're asking the question, how do we build a computing platform that is truly Facebook Reality Labs is a pillar of Facebook. It's dedicated to bringing AR and VR to people, to us, to consumers of the world.
Every single new computing era requires new input devices, new set of interactions that really make this possible.
Our computers in a way that is intuitive at an entirely new level. The RISC is a great starting point for us technologically because it opens up new and dynamic forms of control. This is where some of our core technologies like EMG come into play.
Neural interfaces, when they work right, and we still have.
So if you send a control to your muscle saying, I want to move my finger, it starts in your brain, it goes down your...
Just me?
They cut out for everybody?
Yeah.
Cut out for me.
For me. It seems paused.
It's like, it's dead. It was working for a while.
Oh, was.
Zach also muted himself so he wouldn't pick up the feed from his laptop. Was it working until I paused it? I paused it on purpose to ask.
It was mostly working, yeah.
Okay, we'll keep going. Just shout and wave your arms when things go wrong. Yeah.
Flying through motor neurons and
Too loud? Okay.
Yeah.
You can also
grab that electrical signal on the muscle and say, oh, okay, the user wants to move their finger.
What is it like to feel like
Is it better?
pushing a button without actually pushing it? And that could be as simple as, hey, I just want to move this cursor up or move it left. Here, you're able to move that cursor left. And it's because you and a machine agreed which neurons mean left and which neurons mean right. You're in this constant conversation with the machine.
This new form of control, it requires us to build an interface that adapts to you.
Is it working at all?
It's stopping and starting.
Yeah. Okay. Let me lower the bandwidth a little bit. See if that helps. Do you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, let's give this a shot.
In your environment.
Everything starts with a click.
The intelligent click is the ability to do these highly contextual.
Cutting out again.
It cut out.
Yeah.
Unless that's you pausing it.
You have to do to operate it is just click. So for example, if I'm cooking, I'm kind of pulling some noodles out of a box.
Ask me, would you like to start boiling the water? The RISC can also be a spot where the technology is communicating back to the user.
The haptics, the sensation of touch around us, this is part of how we learn and use motor control. It's critical to AR.
Works.
And then,
Seems good. When you're off mute, you're mouthing whatever they're saying. Awesome.
yeah, it's there's a lot of hands involved in this. I need to be able to control my laptop with my foot.
Did you make those?
When you share your desktop. Oh yeah, let me do this. Give me just 1 second. Sorry, bear with me. We had this plan for later, but I'll do it now. I can plug in headphones to kill the audio speakers on the laptop, but I want the microphone to go away, so they can't be it can't be a headset. So you need the audio mixer because the final Windows mix is what gets shared.
Gotcha.
So you need to disable the hardware, but not the software. It's harder than it sounds.
Yeah, all of it, right?
I remember when we
fine.
had problems with the HDMI cable at the nerdery, and that was always a big pain.
Yep. This is like that, but more entertaining. Okay.
Do you guys know if there's a way to adjust the audio cutoff? Like, I can't hear.
The only thing that I can do is I can give everyone megaphone. And then if anyone mutes themselves, it automatically disables megaphone. So then I have to do it again
Yeah,
manually.
it turns it off.
I think I'm still megaphone, right?
That's something I'll definitely ask about to support, because it's definitely the range is shorter than it used to be for person to person without megaphone.
If you look at your menu, instead of a microphone, you'll have a megaphone at the top.
Yeah, right now it's just Zach and I.
Oh, I don't have megaphone anymore.
Sorry, Ian.
Oh.
All right. F the video. So Facebook bought Control Labs, which bought Myo, which briefly distributed this wrist thingy that would sense nerve impulses in your hand. And one of the reasons this is exciting is the nerve impulses are measurably sooner than your fingers actually move. So not only do you get rid of the need to try to, track human hands that might not be in a good space to be tracked, you don't have to worry about occlusion anymore, but you also lower latency by sensing nerves instead of fingers. The reason they don't sell a lot of these and nobody else makes them is because that's really hard to do. But they've got actual demos. Maybe I'll try to run one. They're actually functional demos of people using it, and we'll end up sharing out these links anyway because this isn't going too well. So that's no hand tracking. That's only that weird armband as input to the.
Or he does it.
Yeah, and the nerve impulses actually do come before your finger moves.
Wow.
So there's this whole weird training stage where you imitate poses while it reads a big pile of nerves on inside your arm.
Have they talked much about calibration? Like, is that a pretty expensive process?
I haven't seen it described, but they definitely reference it a lot, so people know that it's required. And then one of the really interesting ones, I think it's on this page, but yeah, maybe it's not on this page. They've got a really cool example where a guy that doesn't have fingers anymore can control virtual fingers because obviously he still has the nerves and remembers how to use fingers that he used to have.
That's amazing.
So that's pretty neat stuff. Some of the new stuff they released here recently was talking about haptics and how your brain can substitute feedback. So their example was this bow and arrow to make it easy to understand. But if you visually are playing a bow and arrow, you might have experienced this when the Vive came out. If you think back, just a little bit of vibration along with the sound of a string stretching would convince you that you're feeling resistance when obviously you weren't. Kind of the flip side of that is some sort of physical stimulation at the same time as, this really strong visual cue will become tied to that activity. The one experience I had that was like this was the, I'm blanking on the name now, but that custom controller that did the skin, kind of the skin stretching. Is that ringing bells for anybody?
Are you talking about the tactical haptics?
Yeah, tactical haptics. So that was a really unusual controller. The handle would actually, pieces would slide up and down and move your hand. So if you visually saw, if you visually saw you're holding a shield and an arrow comes in and hits it and your hand goes like that, at the same moment you'd feel the skin move down on the front of your hand, in front of your grip, and you'd feel it move up on the back. And you would swear that the thing in your hand got pushed when obviously it didn't. You had it gripped tightly the whole time. And then the substitution would kick in just random times. They had a rock climbing demo where it makes no sense that your grip would actually be moved, but they would represent tension and grip strength through this same mechanism. And within a few minutes, you could use it as kind of a cue for what's happening. It's really interesting. So it's neat to see that going forward. Who knows when it will ever get here? But They're already well past vibrating controllers and maybe even what Sony is doing, and onto some really crazy stuff. And I just wanted to show one of their haptic prototypes because it's scary.
It's really cool in here.
Oh my god.
So imagine that on your wrist.
Wrist, right. Imagine on the wrist.
Put on your what?
Hey, yo.
What the kids are calling it nowadays?
That is creepy.
That's not where anybody's imagining it.
That's not where anybody's putting it.
That's not what'll make the money.
That was really weird.
So who knows if that'll actually come out, but there's a whole paper published on this one. Oops. Let me move past it. The paper on that one's pretty interesting because they've done some kind of novel and expensive things compared to what everybody else does. And then the other real strong visual, Matt's been pining for the new Avatar SDK for how long now?
Yeah.
Over a year?
A year and a half now. Year and 4 months.
They didn't say that they were going to release it, but they did show that they're changing the visuals again on the avatars.
It was supposed to be out in December of 2019, and then it wasn't. And then they showed off at the last Oculus Connect that they changed their direction completely, and they said TBD 2021. So
How do they do the elbows?
It's all IK. That's the thing that stands out to me is the elbows are better than even the current Oculus avatars that haven't made it into wide release. And the latency is lower, but there's also this weird jitter going on, especially with the lady. Some of her movements seem like a Muppet or a marionette because they're not smooth enough. They're not, there's no weight to them.
So part of this thing with the new SDK is that the old SDK included the mesh and all of the avatar functionality, and that's what's actually in Horizons, right? The new SDK, they basically had feedback from people who were trying to use it for various things, and they decided to make it so that the eyes and the IK for the arms and the hands and the fingers and stuff is all just part of the SDK, and then you can substitute in your own mesh. So the idea is that it provides all the visual cues for doing eye contact and looking at objects and hands so the avatar seems more alive, and it does all the facial animations with morph targets, and then you could basically provide your own character so you can have content that matches your experience. But then the SDK is doing all of the voice, puppeting and the IK and all that kind of stuff on top of your own rig. And that's kind of the difference.
I'm hyper interested in what you're saying. Did they change Horizons to New Horizons?
It's still called Facebook Horizons as far as I know.
Yep, it's still in private beta.
Yep.
So these ones haven't landed yet, but you can see the current new ones that aren't the new ones. If you go to their events app is in a public beta.
Yeah.
What do they call that? Oculus Events?
Venues.
Oculus Venues. There's a public beta of that.
It's the Oculus Venues beta because the Oculus Venues is still out, and that's the old one.
And the big takeaway there is, especially compared to here, they did a lot better on the eye contact. There's not this creepy stalker, a drunk guy about to fight you vibe that you get here in alt space with the extended eye contact.
Do you guys know if the rig specs are published somewhere now, the new one?
Nothing's published.
There's a talk from Oculus or from Facebook Connect, and what's his name, Mike guy that is the manager of the social media and SDK platform and social media and avatars for Oculus, does a talk with like one of 2 or 3 people from the team, and they go over the functionality that they're rolling out for the avatar stuff.
But what was in that video isn't live yet, though, right? So we can't. There's no.
So
Correct.
if you have access to Horizon, you get some of that, but this is like a further
Or venues.
evolution, yeah, or venues.
Yep. But yeah, the SDK, no access yet.
And
it's very delayed.
I've had conversations directly with the manager of the project, and he's still like, at some point. I was trying to get him just to add it to the roadmap, and he's like, "Yeah, we should probably do that," but it's not up there. And that was like February.
That's just public.
Yikes. Moving ahead then, we won't actually watch these because these are longer, but if you want to check them out later. Zuck was on the Information podcast. You'd suggested this one. You want to give kind of the high level?
Yeah, this one's good. If you don't follow the information, it's like a $40 a month news subscription site. It's really great though, and they seem to have the best insider stuff. So they had Zuck on. It's 45 minutes of him talking, and it felt really candid and open. And I'll just go through a few things I thought were interesting. Is the high level question, like, why are you doing this? And they said, he feels like the future of social is to feel like you're with people. And he said current tools allow you to communicate. VR, as we all here know, is
let me interrupt you for 1 second. Can you guys hear Mark on this side? You hear him okay?
I can give I'll give a megaphone.
I can hear
Might as well.
Megaphone, yeah.
Let's do a megaphone.
Keep
I'll
rolling.
just wait for the megaphone. Now it can get weird. Okay. All right. Just kidding. But he was basically saying that the holy grail of social is what VR and AR promise, and that you can be with people like this, in the future, built out more. And their whole reason to get into it, he said, think of it like Google getting into Android, is to basically have an important role in shaping how it kind of turns out. And they're obviously spending a lot on it. And he said, every week he gets to spend a certain amount of time on this. He said some weeks more, some weeks less. But you think about all the things that's going on at Facebook, for him to be regularly involved. And he did mention that his time in COVID has gone up a lot too. So, just like a lot of us have spent more time in front of screens, he spent more time there, and he talks about playing games with friends. I thought that was kind of cool. He did mention that the next few iterations of their products are already in place. So, they have a team working on the Oculus Quest 3, the Oculus Quest 4, and they're specifically focusing on things like optics, the form factors, processing power, and then things I think we hope for, but I don't know how much they've been confirmed, but like eye and face tracking. And then gestures, and you just talked about one of the cool ones, gestures, voice, and like those neural inputs. And he kind of made a distinction between the neural inputs of, like Elon Musk's invasive surgery type model. Not that, but more your brain and your, nerves are used to communicate to your muscles, and they want to kind of intercept and work with that. I thought that was pretty cool. Let's see. He said, just thinking about this. And he said basically they see once you get to about 10 million headsets in the market, that's when he said the market itself should just take off and be more profitable for a lot more people and a lot more developers. And he said they feel like they're definitely on track to do that. AR is the big end game for them. The host kind of said, you and Apple disagree on everything and fight about everything, but you do agree that AR is the future. And he's like, obviously, yes. And it was interesting. He said when they bought Oculus, and this is something, I think all of us have talked about at various times here, is they bought it for VR knowing it would be a bridge towards AR. And VR was really enabled by the billions of smartphones made, and the sensors and screens and things like that. But AR is just fundamentally different. So he said, we can do VR now. In the future, his vision is it's a small pair of glasses you put on, and they do AR, like we kind of dream about and kind of think about. And then they can just black out and do VR. So he said he sees them being the same device ultimately. And with the UI and interfaces and gestures, there's so much overlapping. They want to get this whole thing going so that when AR comes, they're ready. Let's see. What else here? He said hard problems for them to solve in AR glasses, and we know this too, is, the optics, the projectors, the miniaturization, and the compute power. And on a side note, I listened to on Clubhouse, Bob's was on an episode of Good Times, and they were asking him, "What about, tell us about AR? How close are we?" And he just sighed and kind of goes, "You guys have no idea how complicated this is and how hard it is." And then Clubhouse crashed and the whole thing went away. But it was hearing him, he sounded kind of, which I thought was just a good metaphor for everything in this year. But you could just tell he was kind of exasperated and like, this is really hard. And they're obviously one of the tiny handful of companies like really trying to solve this problem in a big way. He said, the big challenges they face is adding more sensors to the device. So things like eye tracking for foveated rendering, things like face tracking for gestures and things like that. And even though you can use AI to do a lot of those things, and it's more sensors, it's more compute power, it's all those things. And he did talk a lot about the avatars and how they really want to nail that problem. So it doesn't feel creepy, but it feels additive and not subtractive. Let's see, I think that's just about it. But he said his time frame was interesting when he talks about, Retina VR, meaning, indistinguishably, maybe not realistically rendered, but Retina level VR is kind of what their aim is, which involves resolution, CPU and GPU power, new optics, like the stuff you were talking about from 3M and folded optics and getting smaller, multifocal planes, which is something, Zach, you've talked about before, which is interesting. So that's either flexible lenses or multiple mechanically, movable lenses. And that sounds crazy hard to me. And then he said one issue for pass-through that's really a bummer right now is the screens just don't display vivid kind of HDR images like they need to for you to really probably spend a significant amount of time in there. Let's see, and let's see. One thing that was interesting, I hadn't heard this, or maybe I missed it before, but right now the Quest 2, while it's a really amazing device, it is built on Snapdragon stuff that's like lightly customized for them, but they're basically taking what they're handed and using it. And they are working in their own silicon, so they're just going to have to be able to do the things they want to do. And for anyone who's been following Apple and like their M1 chips, you just know they're leagues ahead of everybody else. And the $1,000 MacBook is basically the fastest Mac they've ever made. So they're going to need that type of that type of performance. And then they can choose, how do we do foveated rendering, and they can kind of design their own things there. He said they want to continue to keep hardware prices down. He said as the App Store gets bigger, that will subsidize it. And I think the Quest 3 at $300, the Quest 2 at $300 is just incredible. But he said in the next 5 years we'll still have phones. But he said after that, he thinks we'll increasingly spend more time in these devices. Just like we haven't gotten rid of TVs or computers, but phones are where we spend most of our time. So it's worth it. It's candid. I thought it was a good interview, and I think the information doesn't let people get away with not answering things, and they ask good questions and they're really informed. So the person they've got doing the interview is like, I would follow him, and they've got a AR and VR newsletter that comes out, I think, every Wednesday. It's free. Also totally worth recommending. It's good.
Yeah, and his
time frame. Oh, go ahead.
The other thing I caught on the App Store was they were asking them about, I don't remember how they framed it, but they were kind of asking about games and making money from apps. And that's when he said, if we do make any money, we'll just lower the price of the headset.
Yeah, that's cool.
And he said some sort of offhand thing like, it'd be great, if the games really take off, but, they care about social interaction. Like the games are maybe what is convenient right now to get into the marketplace. This is my
takeaway. Kind of a means
to
the end as the whole thing evolves, right?
Yeah, and I think the end game there too is that once they nail social and social goes to games, it'll make the games so much better.
Absolutely, that's like multi-brush, right? How different is that than tilt brush? It's insane.
Yeah,
and the last thing he said, he wasn't real specific, but he basically said this type of the AR device they're talking about will be out this decade. So thinking about like less than 10 years, we're going to have, a reasonably competent AR headset / glasses. And he said he sees it really scaling, to hundreds of millions or billions of users in the 2030s, which sounds really far off, but definitely is not, given the iPhone came out in 2007, 14 years ago, right?
Oh.
So definitely worth listening to. 45 minutes. And then that podcast in general is just great too.
And then did you get a chance to watch the SPIE thing, or I can summarize it?
Go ahead. No, I haven't yet.
So these are two companies. I guess the way to frame it up is people that know stuff, the actual manufacturing stuff, got super crazy excited when this announcement came out. These two companies, LuxExcel and Wave Optics, have manufactured and are scaling up for other people to build headsets. They've manufactured a waveguide inside a prescription lens. And they do a great job of laying this out. You can tell that their marketing departments are used to trying to explain this to people that have no idea what they're talking about. They have really great graphics. If you're interested in manufacturing and the state of the art of transparent displays, AR displays, it's a good one. Mainly because of the visuals, really kind of drive it all home. And then they talk about the trade-offs when you're making a waveguide. There's these 5 factors that all balance against each other to decide what you end up building. And again, the AR is hard thing. Well, first off, they frame it up as, there's around 7 billion people that have some form of eye correction, and whatever percentage, it's very high, 80 or 90% use glasses instead of contacts. So if you're going to build AR glasses, they need to work for prescription, for eye, vision correction. So with that is kind of the premise that everybody's going for. They have to be thin, they have to be close to your face, and they have to work with prescription glasses. So to actually build one that can do all those things is this amazing deal. Yet the thing they built, and it's thin, it looks like normal glasses. It doesn't look like crazy things that are coming to market now that vaguely resemble, like Nreal, resemble sunglasses from the front.
It's
from the side you'd
from your
never
face in
from the side it's sticking out here. Yeah,
and you have to look like this. Yeah.
These look like real glasses. They're thin, they're close to your eyes, they're what everybody wants, but the waveguide they're able to get to work in there is 640 by 480, and it's only green. So so burying the lead a little bit. And it's funny that they did that at the end of their presentation, not at the beginning, but I understand why. I guess everybody would just jump off
they just need to package it with an Apple II emulator, and then it's just like
perfect.
I'm down for that.
Yeah,
I would die
more
of
than
dysentery
enough
for that, for sure.
enough res to play Doom. Yeah. But if you're interested in that stuff, it is a really grounded explanation. It's not the graduate level one that we got here a year or two ago. Does anybody know Push Matrix, who does kind of the viral hand tracking demos on Twitter and everywhere else? He was just on for an hour with Upload VR. Really great to watch. And if you don't know him, it's a good summary of all his stuff. But it's good to hear that he's grounded. He's not claiming that our current hand tracking is this amazing thing that we can use for all sorts of useful stuff. He's saying, no, these are experiments to do new interactions. And yeah, I figured out how to make a viral hit, so I keep doing them. But it's a really good watch. Actually, I am going to click that one just so we can get crowd reactions real quick. It doesn't have any text, so we need a big visual. Hopefully it's not full of ads. And these guys actually built their own studio, and they broadcast twice a week out of VR with hand tracking. They're a little game focused, but one time a week they do stuff that's not games. See if I can find a demo. I got to do this on my real monitor.
That very much looks like your early chipper app.
Wood chipper. I guess this is a good example. Oh, yep, there's the famous one. That's what really got him noticed when he did the hand tracking and then grated his fingers like they were a block of cheese. People just get this visceral reaction like it was their real hands doing this. And coming right up here is he made a haircutting simulator so he could practice before he gave his wife a COVID haircut. I think was how he framed this one. But it's real interesting to hear him talk. He's talking about the haptics. Again, this substitution idea, your fingers touch together when you pinch. You get a physical sensation, but then you hear the snippy sound, and you just start to imagine that you're holding scissors and they're clicking together when you pinch your hands. And he makes them really short. He talks about this. He goes, yeah, anything over 15 seconds and people don't watch it. So why make more? But there's a whole bunch of them.
This last week.
There's a whole bunch of them. There's all these interesting ones. He did machine learning to train hands to be able to move themselves using physics so that he could disconnect them from his body and have them crawl around and be creepy. They just keep showing that cheese grater, but it's not animated. That's what I wanted to see. That's some sign language stuff he did. There's just a lot of them. It's a really fun watch. He's done so many things. That was a theremin. The one I'm looking for. I wish I'd queued it up and bookmarked it, but he did this one where he pulls his hand off. He's in a jail cell. He pulls his hand off, throws it through the bars, and then using hand tracking here, but his hand is visually over there. Has it. I wish my hand tracking worked in AltSpace. Has it crawl to the floor and up the table and push the button to unlock the jail cell. So all these real clever ideas, and then he actually executes them. So that's, I think, kind of a watch. Here we've got Oculus Developer Center Authenticate. You can see I'm not super good at computers. What this used to say was, if you own a PSVR, 5 free games starting tomorrow. So go get them. And a couple other non-VR games. The link is correct anyway. And I'm going to talk about Microsoft Ignite here next. And if you want to see the long versions of what I show, there they all are. So I'll tweet this out or something. I'll send it out to everybody that registered for the event.
Nice.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, Zach. And we'll get this a little dialed in better for next time. We'll use a URL shortener and we'll all be typing in there. It'll be exciting. Yeah, so I think we're ready to move on. Luckily, I don't have much text in my slides. Well, actually, before we move on, I was hoping somebody in the group dug into the face tracker from Vive. Did anybody look closely at that? Thong? Face tracker?
I haven't gotten my hands on it yet.
All the YouTubers like, it works with Quest, and they do this big thing with tape and side-loaded software to stream the video from it through a video conferencing app to their PC to Steam VR. But my basic question is, how is it different than a webcam? Like, what is the hardware doing? What is it? And nobody has details like that yet.
A little bit, but I'm missing it. It really is just a webcam with an API on top, right?
But it's awfully wide. Is it multiple cameras?
I think it's just one camera, and it's there's like an SDK on top of it, kind of like what iOS is doing with face transforms. But I don't know all the details to that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Do you know when it's publicly available, or is it available now?
It's now, yeah, it shipped. Yep. And the list of supported titles include Neos VR. That's the whole list.
That's awesome.
But
that's the one place you'd want to use it,
It is the one place, and obviously it's going to show up in some of the social stuff. But they got early access, so they already had rigs ready to go. And the most alarming thing is the tongue tracking. You can go find those videos on your own. You don't want tongue tracking on non-human avatars. It's too much. But any other random things? Did anybody order the what's that new hip tracker that Kickstarter that shipped?
Tundra?
We were just talking about it yesterday.
That's a good one. Yeah. They'll come back to me. Yeah, Tundra is starting to ship. Well, they're starting to Kickstarter to ship compatible Vive trackers. That's an interesting one. They're smaller and they're a little bit cheaper, but mostly you get rid of having so many dongles on your computer. So it'd be neat to see how those review. No, the thing I'm thinking of, they're the ones that are going to ship a standalone inside out tracked everything headset here at the end of the year. They claim.
Yeah, the one that has all the
for-
face, the one that has all the face tracking built into it.
Is that ringing a bell for anybody?
It has eye
I
tracking and
gave
it has
him
multiple
$5.
cameras inside.
Nice.
You gave him
Yeah, the
$5? No.
What's
Yeah,
the
I
name?
did that.
What's the name? They got my money though.
Yeah.
Here.
So there's like controllers. There's like the headset with all the sensors in it, the eye tracking and the facial tracking cameras, and then they have the hip tracker that's supposed to solve the issue of tracking the body.
Yikes. Yeah, this is gonna go badly very quickly. Deca gear. They're there.
Deca gear. There you go. Deca
So
Move.
the Deca Move shipped and it like works. So that
Well, the one
gives us
person
a
said
little-
it works.
no, like three did.
3?
Okay.
Half the market.
Yep. And so that gives hope that they could actually pull off maybe face tracking too. Because other people have shipped hip, tracking, walk enablement, and it's been bad. Well, Matt, you
And
got
one
Cat
of-
Loco.
Yeah, I have Cat Loco, not Gouda.
No, I don't like it.
Maybe
So-
someday. But the thing about it was that they did a Kickstarter. So Cat they've done like their own version of the Omni. So they have like a 3 different sizes of omnidirectional treadmill. And then they made the Cat Loco, which is just like it's like a waist sensor and a sensor on each foot. And then it's supposed to like, figure out the IK to make your legs hurt. And it sort of does that, doesn't really work that great. And then they released an option where if you had 2 of them, which is great marketing because you have to buy 2, that you could put 1 on each foot, 1 on each knee, and then like have, and then at your waist one. And then you had like most of a leg, essentially, most of 2 legs. And it took them forever to release the SDK. What you got out of the box was that it installed as a Steam VR plugin, essentially, and it would just work with Steam VR games. So when I was trying to actually use it to do my own stuff, it took forever after the Kickstarter finally shipped for them to release the SDKs for Unreal and Unity. And then it's just kind of mediocre. And one of the guys who said that the Deca Move actually works had previously used the Cat Loco and said that it works unlike that one. So
Yeah. So there's still a little hope that we'll get a competitor that can do some things, but the software ecosystem will become the bottleneck there. But
if anyone wants to try out some Cat Locos, let me know. I'll ship them to you.
good
I
price.
thought you sold all that stuff, Matt.
Free VR
What's
cave,
that?
right?
I thought you sold all that stuff. Did you hang on?
No,
to
I
it?
sold my Omni for a major profit.
That's
I saw
awesome.
an ad for the new on YouTube today.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that's a story. They originally did a Kickstarter to make a home use omnidirectional treadmill. Then it got too expensive and too big and too heavy to ship because it cost $300 to ship it after the fact. Because it came in a box that was like 8 feet square. It was delivered by a semi truck,
Wow.
So then they pivoted to be sold only for like esports, kind of like VR, VR event places, right? And now they're
Location-based
pivoting,
stuff, right? Yeah.
and now they're pivoting again back to home use, and that's the thing that Scott's talking about. So they have a new Omni that's slimmer. It has a vertical support bar and like a vest that's attached to it, so you put it on instead of the ring around you, like the Omni that I had. And so the idea then is that the support arm, which Scott says make you look like an anime character on a stand, is it's on a pivot. So as you rotate, it rotates around the perimeter of the base, and then you're standing on a disc. And that's the thing that keeps you from falling over, essentially. So that's supposedly their home use version that they didn't crowdfund it, they invested it. So the people who gave money are investors in Virtuix now.
They're investors, but do they receive a product?
they optionally could. No, they don't actually. So depending on how you invested, you either got, depending on the amount of money you invested, you either got a product or you got a discount on purchasing a product when they ship.
Did they go through like Fig, or do you know what?
It was Cloud Seed or something like that. It was like,
Okay.
it's like this company that's set up to do the, you know, micro investment in companies, and they've raised millions of dollars. Like they already did raise millions of dollars for the first one, on top of the Kickstarters. But so some point this year they're going to ship that, and my guess is it'll be slightly better, but still wanting from actually being good. But
It just seems so much like we are already being funneled down Facebook's buy-in. Like there's no other reason to buy any hardware except for Facebook.
Well, this would be
for the dollars.
Yeah, this would be, you would put on your Quest, you know, and actually they're intending to ship it with the Pico Neo, so that it would have, you can either buy it as a developer device that only has the Omni, or you can buy it as a full package that ships with the Pico Neo, and then you just, like, you know, put the Pico Neo on it. It's preloaded with content, and then you jump on it and you're in. And the idea then is that there's less, just like the Quest, there's less, you know, effort required to jump in. So in theory, it would take off better, but we'll see.
Yeah, at some point too, I mean, there will be competitors. Facebook's refusing to sell in China, so it's inevitable. But the question is the U.S. software support, I think. So
well, and that was the thing with the Pico too. Like, wasn't the original Pico and the Oculus Go were basically identical?
Yeah.
And then one was available in China and the other one wasn't. So that was like the main difference. They actually were hardware-wise exactly the same. They had some different aesthetics, and obviously they've diverged since then. But you know, and that was like when they were trying to get it in both markets, they ended up just someone else did that market. So that could still be a situation that happens in the future, but or maybe China just makes its own. There's like a government issued VR headset that everyone just gets. I don't know.
Seriously.
All right, we're ready to move on to the next topic. I'll go a little bit quick here to catch us up on time. So Microsoft Ignite is this really, 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 really big event for everything Microsoft. Like everything Microsoft, like Active Directory, new features, you know, like so many things I don't want to hear about or even know that they exist. But also they shoehorned in some AR stuff this year, and I got a hot tip that I really wanted to show up for the keynote. Thong, where are you going? This is the good part. It's roaming. But I got this hot tip that I did actually want to show up and not just watch the video replays, because they apparently invested a huge ton of money in this mixed reality keynote. And of course, it was going to happen in alt space, which made me worried. And then kind of as I expected, they did a software release the night before, and then nobody could log in. But then a few people could, and they were troubleshooting up until like 10 minutes before it was going to start. So one of the weird outcomes is like the actual press didn't make it into alt space. Like, I was tweeting with the Upload VR guys who have the most kind of staff to send to things at this point. They're like, yeah, I was trying to get in my Quest and I couldn't, so I just watched on the web. They got it fixed by kind of revoking you notice that you don't have to log in here if you've done it in the recent past. They do the certificate thing. They revoked all the client-side certificates in order to force you to re-authenticate, and then everybody got in. And we landed in theaters that look like this. I think they were capped at 50 people per, and then instanced out. There's many hundreds of people there, although there would have been probably many, many more if it was working, you know, a reasonable amount of time before it started. And then I saw this amazing presentation, and I'm going to show you it in 2D. And it looks like it looks like crappy Amiga video toaster effects from the 80s. But if you can attempt to visualize, this is the room because the seats are the same layout. And all these large things that you're going to see were above you and around you and in front of you. And then kind of this live video stuff that you'll be able to imagine, because it really is just kind of video composited into 3D. But so this place not only looks like this, now they have like full control of the lighting and props and animations and all. They can basically do anything that you'd want to do. And that's neat because getting into VR to look at a rectangle that's kind of fuzzy is not the best use of VR, but it's kind of what we have for now with COVID. But this is a demonstration of them kind of flexing and saying, yeah, you know, we can do all this stuff. And what it also meant for me as someone that's been getting sadder and sadder about the alt space changes, it means there was an entirely separate team that's been working on alt space with a lot of resources, and they just released this version here a month ago. And there was this other team that was shoving a couple patches and security fixes into the alt space that we were suffering in for a year. So it's exciting to see these new features. If you noticed when you joined today, it said, 50 people, which room do you want to join? There's only one room, so why don't you join that one? Everyone by default gets the ability to, I don't know what they call it. They call it front row, instance out the presentation to multiple rooms. And that means you can have many rooms of 50 people and presenters are copied between the rooms, and even have functions to do Q&A between the rooms. So for example, if, Marty asked a question and I do the thing to give him microphone control, it's a little different than megaphone. He becomes instanced to all the rooms and asks his question, and then I answer him, and I'm, everybody can already see me. So it's like super scalable, and it gained a whole bunch of features all in one go because they've been hiding them. So that's pretty great. All of those things didn't show up in any press article anywhere at all. 0% coverage of these features. So mostly I just wanted to get this stuff in Microsoft Mesh in front of you guys so you can keep an eye on it. And I was super jazzed. They said they were going to do this keynote again at night, for different time zones. And I was telling Mark he needs to go see it. And then I asked somebody at Microsoft, they're like, no, it'll just be a video replay. So apparently it's never going to exist again. So they spent all this money. It was super amazing. People missed it because of the trouble logging in, and then it's never going to run again. But it started with this interactive portion, and we were all spawning fish into the room while somebody was babbling about how great mixed reality is. Yep. You had a question?
Why do you think they didn't really broadcast that this was happening more? Because it seems like a thing everybody here would have wanted to see. Yes. It feels like they just kind of like did it on. Do you think they were scared of too many people showing up, or do you have a sense of that at all?
I wonder if maybe the timeline was getting too tight. I don't know. Because Alex Kipman announced it 2 days before, only 2 days before, and it said it's going to be the biggest mixed reality ever, and then didn't tell anybody that was in alt space, so nobody knew how to join it. They had to find that out on their own. Well, it really was.
I'm wondering too if maybe they had a problem recording all of the stuff to play it back, because they probably that first time was a live performance, like they actually had people set up. They queued up some of the studio capture stuff, and like, because like some of the comedy club stuff they've done in the past, they've rebroadcast that, and it's just been recordings of motion capture that play back.
Right.
But on this scale, maybe they just biffed it and then just couldn't. So then they recorded a video of it while it was done going, and that's what they ended as a backup, and that's what ended up working.
Yeah, I agree. If they could replay it in 3D, they definitely would be, because it's very impressive. So just running through the things that were actually announced. So the public preview of Azure Object Anchors. I've got a photo of that later, but that's essentially anchoring to objects instead of the environment. And their example there was Toyota is rolling out. They piloted in Japan. Now they're rolling out to every dealership in Japan. Their techs can pop the hood on a car and see the electrical wiring overlaid on, under the hood on the engine for that specific car. So it's anchoring to the engine bay and the crap inside the engine bay rather than the environment, which is very, very important. Right, Ryan? Wherever you went.
Are they going to do like
Yes.
QR codes for target for like tracking purposes under the hood of cars to like make the AR better?
So that's what's different is you don't have to do silly stuff. And it's just kind of a new feature. This did make the press, but nobody knew what was happening because they didn't say. Niantic showed up and they showed Pokemon inside of HoloLens 2 and said a bunch of times, yeah, we're not going to release this. This isn't for you. This isn't a consumer app. And then they didn't say what they were doing. They just said partnership. But Microsoft had Pokemon on stage. So there is legal documents that have exchanged hands there. It's just not clear what. HoloLens demo app, I should have put, of the mesh features. So the press that did get this far just said, yeah, it meshes for HoloLens and it does this thing. Because the marketing from Microsoft didn't explain what it did. This huge update to AltSpace, we discussed a new branch of AltSpace that we're not allowed in that has mesh functionality embedded in it. I applied, we'll see if they ever get back to me. I got HoloLens 2 in there twice. Okay. And then the launch of the launch of Microsoft Mesh. Good segue. Right on cue. I'm glad we practiced.
Wait, before you...
Microsoft Mesh.
Did everyone hear about the other big Niantic announcement this week? They're
What was it?
With Nintendo.
Pikmin.
You guys hear Marty?
Is he really quiet for everybody else?
There's gonna be a Pikmin.
He's super quiet.
Like some kind
It sounds like it's just coming through your mic.
That's my fault. I had my mic away from my face. Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, just that there's gonna be a Pikmin. I don't know if they're gonna call it Pikmin Go, but essentially a Pikmin mobile, AR thing.
For phones?
We don't know. Yeah, for phones, presumably. We don't know anything about it, but it's their. I think it's their first partnership with Nintendo. Is that true? No, because didn't they work on the?
Niantic made Pokemon Go. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, but I mean that's the Pokemon company. That's not Nintendo.
Oh, it isn't?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
They are separate companies. Yep.
Anyway, I saw that in like 3 different news sources, so I thought, it's notable. That's all.
So Microsoft Mesh can't be defined apparently, and also they picked the name Mesh for their product, so it can't be Googled at all either. It's in private beta; you can't have it, but they have this growing track record of doing really solid things and people actually implementing them and then scaling them up. So I think they're on a roll, and they wouldn't risk this if they weren't making something good. They had a confusing concept video that I won't even show you because it's just nonsense from Hollywood. But their 2016 MR concept video was what they did here on stage for the keynote this year. So there's probably stuff in there that they think they can do in a few years. What it is, it's an SDK for developers and a set of related Azure services to really quickly build scalable social, like this app here or any other collaboration app. Because Microsoft is no longer tries to lock people in, and they're really focused on making good tools instead. It's got this broad list of support. And right away in the private beta, out of the gate, it already supports Quest. So they're listening to their customers and what devices they want to use. There's actually a web target that I forgot to list here. I forget which one, but one of the 3D web targets is on their list to get released this year. So not just kind of the popular things, but also something that's kind of really broad and could get supported in strange off-brand headsets from China. And then collaboration features with distributed transactions and actual working persistence. You'll hear in our little postmortem of Rec Room that it's really fun to work together in VR, but the progress can go faster if it's not reliant on game networking to do important saves and changes for you. You might encounter some setbacks as you go, as you scale things up. So they designed this the right way as well. There's an open source project called Origins that's been out and about, since like 2015 or 2017, but super distributed, super fault tolerant. It's used to back in tons of different Xbox services in games and things. They have tools. They already had tools, but they roped them into Mesh to import a variety of 3D assets. So their example is drop, an FBX in OneDrive and then open it in Mesh. That just works. So there's a good variety there of things that they support. And then they already had remote rendering features. So if you drop something in there that's impossible for your clients to render, you can kind of push a remote render down to them. And that sounds awful, but they've already kind of proved it out with HoloLens, and they can compensate, using time warp style effects. They can compensate for the latency, and they've got toolkits to keep your hands and GUIs and stuff interactive, rendered local, and then this object right there is rendered remote, and we can kind of distort it as you move your head. We can kind of make up for the fact that there's a delay, the frame rate coming down. It's not cheap for end users, but for businesses, it's plenty affordable. But it's not. You're not going to make that for your friends. And all the things you aren't thinking about right now that are super duper important: account security, 3-factor authentication, all that stuff is mandatory. It's in there. So you don't want to build this awesome thing for showing your prototypes to each other, and then someone else just kind of walks into it because there isn't good security. But so that's what it is. None of that got into the press anywhere that I saw. It only made it onto one Microsoft website out of all the different websites that talked about Mesh. On the initial slides, the links I'll send out, there's a long version that includes a demo of the Unity toolkit. And because they wanted things to be turnkey, obviously, that gets people excited. They had collaboration built, and up and running in 10 minutes. So that assumes you already have an Azure account and whatever money or privileges to spin up the backend service. But they got it running that fast with voice and collaboration and sharing 3D objects. So that's worth a look. But again, it's still in private beta, so no rush. I just wanted you guys to be aware of it. I think my brain thinks I can click on that link, but it totally can't. Here. We'll do audio for this one.
Finally being able to take the wraps off Microsoft Mesh and being able to give a tour to you all. Before we get started, let me give you a quick tour of the setup. What you are seeing is a custom camera rig that gives you the perspective as if you are wearing a HoloLens. With that, let me flip my HoloLens visor down and enter Microsoft Mesh. Foundational to Microsoft Mesh is this notion of spaces. Think of spaces like a conference room, except something that is persisted across time and geographies. I have my home space. I have a pipeline review space where my colleagues are waiting for. So let me go ahead and enter the pipeline review space. And I can see here my dear friend Nishant waiting in the review space. So Nishant, great to see you here.
Hey, Simon. How you doing?
Hello. Hey, Nishant, can you explain a little bit of what you are seeing?
Absolutely, Simon. I see an avatar of yours and I hear your voice as if you were right across the room from me here. I see an awesome hologram of a table which is inviting me to bring in 3D models and create and collaborate upon it. And of course, as I lift my hands, I see the hand menu where I can bring in more people into the space. I can go ahead and change my avatar and appearance. I can annotate, draw, and bring in more shapes and figures into the space, as well as bring in 2D and 3D content to collaborate upon.
Hey, Nishant, since we are here to take a look at the project that Doreen worked on, do you think you could quickly invite her if she's available to the space?
Certainly, Simon. Let me invite Doreen.
Is it still working?
It just
Is
stopped.
it holding together? I just paused it just now, but was it working up until then?
Really good.
All right.
It was working.
Just everybody wave your arms a lot if we have problems.
While Nishant is doing this, I want to make a mention that Microsoft Mesh is integrated with AAD and MSA so that hosts can invite participants into designated spaces in a simple but trustworthy manner. When I lower down my visor, I can see that Nishant has already invited Doreen to the space. Hey, Doreen, great to see you here.
Hi, Simon. Hi, Nishant.
Doreen, so great to see you. Do you recall the pipeline project that you worked on? It needs a quick review. If you could kindly bring in that model from your OneDrive so we all could take a look at it and make a few recommendations to the engineers, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Let me pull it up from my OneDrive. What's great about Mesh is the integration with the Microsoft 365 graph. What we show here is actually a model that our customers use today. This is a part that is used to prevent spills. But the idea is that a wide range of data can be shown inside of Mesh. Your connections, your collaborative efforts, your workflows, even your documents transfer very well from a 2D space into a 3D space.
So one of the things about collaboration in mixed reality is the three-dimensional fidelity that it offers. And while each of us can have a unique perspective into it, we all can rotate, translate, pan, zoom, add or redact from this model, driving clarity to the decision making while reducing the cost and complexity of being in in-person meetings. One of the things that I miss out really in in-person meeting is the ability for us to annotate in a whiteboard or on a paper. And with Microsoft Mesh-enabled applications, I can bring up my hand menu, bring up my annotations here, and my fingers turn into, at this time, essentially a pen through which I can annotate in a space. I can see here that while I've been doing this, my colleagues here have annotated as well.
Yeah, and speaking of annotations, I think there's a piece of this model we should look at. Can you come over here and take a look quickly?
Sure.
Great. I'm actually noticing that this space on the model here may actually need a further look from our engineering team. It seems like there might be something out of date. Do you think we can take a look with them maybe early next week?
Yeah, I can request the engineering team to come and take a look. One of the benefits of collaboration in...
That's enough. You get the idea. They're going nice and slow for the beginners. And no, you don't have to use these avatars. I think it's hilarious to see them show up. That was one of Matt's comments when they showed a different set of default avatars. He's like, oh, thank God.
I like how nice and game ready their engineering model is.
Well, yeah, all kinds of problems with this demo, but just thinking that if you could have something like that, and this that table and stuff, that's exactly the Unity starter project. If you could have that running in 10 minutes and then start customizing from there, that would be a heck of a good deal. So it just kind of remains to be seen what the pricing is going to be like. Mm-hmm. And I think too, I was wondering why they only released a HoloLens 2 demo. I think if they had released a Quest demo, like they would have had kind of the deluge of people kicking the tires versus the high-end business customers that they want to court first before that for the closed beta.
Is the Mesh 2 demo open for everyone, Zach?
For HoloLens, yeah, it's in the App Store. You have a HoloLens,
Okay.
right? HoloLens 2?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
HoloLens 2 only. And you got to have two of them then to collaborate.
And it has your license. And what other services do you need from Microsoft in order for that to work? Oh, one space. It gets real fast with how much stuff you need.
Well, yeah, that's the kind of the docs that aren't in the public yet. Is kind of the details, but at a minimum, you need people to be able to log in through Microsoft service. And they do talk about it. So there's, this is just this little 5-minute snippet. There was an hour on the SDK. And then there was another entire hour of Ask Them Anything. And they did answer 10 questions, like this stuff about platforms and what order they're doing them and how soon they'll be there. Oh, we got a question for Mike. Are you able to talk, Mike, or is there something wrong?
I just didn't want to interrupt there. I just
no worries.
The audio of the video, but
the entire time you didn't have audio.
Just for the video. I've been hearing everything else great.
Okay, interesting. What platform are you using for client?
Yeah. I'm on 2D interface.
On PC or Mac?
PC.
Okay, interesting. Previous videos worked or didn't work?
Too, and I could hear it. I was able to hear.
I think everything else did work.
I don't know what's
Okay.
going on.
If it happens again, I would say it's one of the random things that maybe can be fixed by going to your home space and then coming back here, hopefully. It's worth a shot anyway. But yeah, we'll definitely send out the links to everybody that attended. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt. Thank you.
No, we want you to interrupt. That's good. We like it. And then just real fast, some of the eye candy. So really, that's all I wanted to say about Mesh. If it piqued your interest, like I said, there's the two other 1-hour sessions where they go into developer details. But again, it's still private beta. But if you work at a big defense contractor, maybe you can talk them into getting in the private beta.
Because you need a Teams license and an Azure cloud and a OneDrive, all the things that we can't have. Microsoft is just stumped as to why we can't access their demos. We've had, like every 2 weeks meetings with Microsoft, and they're like, "Well, have you guys been able to hook up yet?" And we're like, "No." And then they send us a tutorial on how to sign up for stuff. It's funny.
Yeah. Oh, that's were you able to connect from your internal network? Is the question. Not that you couldn't go to a random person's house and it would work fine.
Yep.
Well, yeah. We just want to, test it out, kick the tires, and it's like a whole service sign up thing that, we're trying to go through the hoops, but it takes a bit with, anybody that works for a large company would know that it has to go through legal, and then it has to go through IT, and it has to go up to every manager possible to make approvals. And
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, if there's not a sandbox area for you to do stuff.
And IT says no for a year.
And IT says no. Currently, our IT is saying no. They don't have enough people. So that's the best excuse ever. They can't do things because they don't have the people.
So I was just going to show you a little bit of the eye candy. There's a still, so I know the video will get a little squished now that we lowered the bandwidth, but James Cameron showed up for a while live on stage from New Zealand, or in his HoloLens, and they talked, and they brought in a 3D model of whatever the name. Does anybody recognize that submersible that he's working with now? It's like Deep Challenger or something like that. But anyway, he was there. He was impressive. They spent a lot of money. Did I mention that? I'm going to focus on the examples that like really played really well in 3D. They won't in 2D, but if you can picture like this is the space, this much room, and when this squid goes over the audience, it is a 100-foot long squid going over you in the audience. It's like IMAX but better. So let's give it a shot here.
Zach, it looks like that stage there is the same one you're standing on. Is that right? For
it
reference?
Is. Yeah, it was essentially this room, but you couldn't see the outdoors. And then they would keep changing the backgrounds. And so when you see a video shot of the audience, you can kind of get a sense of the scale because you're in the exact same seats that they were.
Toyota has embraced HoloLens, Dynamics 365 Remote Assist, and our mixed reality services to improve maintenance efficiency and to differentiate on customer service. Their most recent mixed reality solution enables technicians to intuitively access via Azure Object Anchors wiring and structure information of specific car models while working on the actual vehicle. As a result, this is reducing the time spent doing inspections by as much as 20%. A significant return on investment, which has them rolling out this HoloLens 2 solution to all of their dealerships across Japan. Take Bentley Systems as another example. Bentley Systems is a global leader in software for architecture, engineering, and construction. And they're using HoloLens 2 and our mixed reality services to improve bridge inspections. In the United States alone, there are more than 600,000 bridges, a key part of the infrastructure that keeps our country running. Using drones to capture high-resolution images, Bentley can create precise digital twins for the bridge. Now, because details matter,
so
when
this
doing
in 3D
inspections,
in front of you in the
Bentley's
room.
using Azure Remote Rendering to enable real-time, high-fidelity renderings, allowing multiple experts to view large sections of the bridge all at the same time. Leveraging this Bentley solution on a HoloLens device, inspectors at Collins Engineers can visualize sections of the bridge. They can add spatial notes, annotations, dimensions, or other markings to provide detailed contextual information for the structure. And in the process, they can save 40% of labor costs for each inspection they make. And local and state government agencies can follow in the footsteps of the Minnesota Department of Transportation, who is working with Collins Engineers to save an estimated $4 million per year, savings that can be repurposed.
So I did trace this one to ground, not quite to a human. It's actually a while back. I'm not sure why they're bringing it up now, but MnDOT got a local engineering firm. I got the notes somewhere, not in front of me, who eventually used Bentley's software to do a pilot like 5 years ago. And then they've done 2 or 3 more. And apparently maybe the new thing is they're inspecting them in HoloLens. Not super clear because MnDOT didn't publish anything about HoloLens at all. But really interesting. And yeah, I'm real hopeful I can track that down to some local folks that'll come talk to us. And that was the Stone Arch Bridge, right? Wasn't that the bridge, our bridge that they show?
That was our bridge.
Yep.
Like it, yeah.
Yeah.
I assume with
really
all the money they're saving, our taxes will all go down too. Can you verify that?
Well, I think we'll get free HoloLens is the plan.
Well, I think the savings just goes to IT. They just pass it straight to
them
the.
do some of the scanning with the drones.
Oh yeah.
They had a thing where they drained part of the river under the Stone Arch Bridge and invited people to go look at it. And Eleanor and I were out there, and there was a guy down the drone doing something odd. And maybe that's part of what they were doing.
That's cool. Yeah, that it was.
Cool. So they drained the water so they could inspect underneath the water level.
Exactly. You could actually walk. This is in between the 2 locks downtown, between the lower St. Anthony
Awesome.
and upper St. Anthony. They
That's cool.
opened up lower St. Anthony completely, and that dropped the river level to the point where you could actually sort of walk out on a bunch of the area that's usually got water in it. And this guy had sort of a landing pad set up down there and was doing something, and people were like ringed around him watching him. It was kind of cool. We were up on the bridge looking down. Sweet. Yes, we want to talk to those guys.
Yep.
And Zach, the presenters are just alpha video. Is that correct?
Say that again. Oh yeah. So
how was that done?
Yeah, in this section, it was just basically green screen, and they used the new Connect.
Cool.
So it was at certain angles, you might catch a real flat look to them when the camera's not face forward to them. Okay. Later on, they did have their volumetric video.
Flooring that enables us to make these new
bubbles.
Tentacles.
incredible discoveries.
Yeah, and now more than ever, the importance of these discoveries are front and center in our changing world. OceanX was born out of this remarkable passion and excitement to explore the unknown. Over the past 3 years, we've designed and built a massive, brand new, one-of-a-kind research ship called Ocean Explorer. With the
Just wanted to highlight that, there's people at human scale standing in front of you talking, there's neat stuff happening, and then they go to miniature scale so that you can see a good view of the boat. Like, just some really, they spent a lot of time on this. This was concepted heavily, and I can't imagine the budget. And you'll never see
it. Ran on Quest.
It ran great on Quest. Yeah, no frame rate problems. Yeah.
Cool.
There was a pretty heavy download when he came into the room, because it was this next one you're going to see was all kind of pre-calculated. I might even kill the audio for this. So we're doing this presentation. All the different people have gone. James Cameron is here. It turns out he's not the finale. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Then this frog hops up onto the stage and starts talking to Alex Gitman, and it transforms into maybe a French guy. He's the founder of Cirque du Soleil, and he's got some sort of online something art social thing. And he's saying things, and it sounds vague, and we're wondering why it's here. And then there's some cheesy looking effects, and then they all drag us into this portal. Like, everybody in the room sitting here just minding their own business gets dragged into this portal. And then this is what happens if you make it through. Let me just kill the audio on that. So then people that were minding their own business are now in a 3D space, freely walking and really confused. And there's volumetric video. You can see the shifting viewpoint here. It was really good. Really good sharp texturing. This is an old project of Microsoft's. You can actually pay them to go get filmed by 200 cameras and be processed into 3D textured objects. And you can look at like the guy's robe. They probably picked that on purpose, his bathrobe there. So you can see that it's not a bone and skin mesh. It's free form meshes. So I didn't quite catch your question there, but the volumetric stuff was clearly pre-recorded and cached on each one of our headsets. There's no other way to do it. Although if it was one person, you could stream it, because part of the research was to embed the texture. So obviously video can be streamed, textures can be streamed. They found a way to put geometry data into an MPEG stream, so it can be run at a fixed bit rate, and you can do things like arbitrary cloth and that kind of stuff. So then all this crazy stuff happened, and that was the end. So we're not super certain what the service will be, but
that was weird.
Yeah, yep, it was very bold.
It feels like bold. They should have brought Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates back to do their awkward stage dance, like when Windows 95 came out. And like
the dancing was pretty awkward. I mean, look at it.
No, it's just as awkward. They're just not famous.
Yeah,
they're not as sweaty as Steve Ballmer though.
Yeah. So yeah, this all ran inside AltSpace. Can you believe it? Based on your experience? No, me neither. I was there though. I saw it with my own eyes.
This is just clever compositing, Zach. I don't think this is.
They paid me off. That's why I got the good responsiveness today.
Zach, real interesting.
So then this all happened, and then they said thanks, and boom, you're back in this auditorium, and strangers are way too close to your face, and they're confused too. And then shortly after, we all got beamed to like a hallway, mixer kind of situation. And what was super notable about that, I'll have to probably zoom this a bit.
Oh, the people.
Exactly. Here's the full screen button.
It's a lot of people.
Something went wrong transferring between rooms, and we all started showing up in the exact same zone. I heard a number later of somebody that was talking about it. It was like, yeah, we got up to 130 people. And nothing broke, and the Quest didn't break, and the frame rate didn't break. And what is this little warning message? Got it. One of my callouts, I've never seen this in alt space. As things were getting out of hand, distant people turned into
billboard avatars,
dark billboards to maintain frame rate. But like this worked. These people were all talking and wandering around, and it all functioned.
Huh.
I was completely shocked. And then people are like, "Yeah, the music's too loud," and then other people are like, "Yeah, it sure is. I wish we could talk, but the music's too loud." Which mimics real life conventions, but also you have an option to escape the music where you don't hear. But yeah, so they've been working hard, and it all just appeared magically at once. So it's now very, very scalable here.
That's really cool.
And you still get weird looking avatars with too much eye contact, but yeah, that's why I was so worked up, Mark, because like it redeemed a whole year of pain.
That's cool. It looks like those look like the people from the lab, the Pocket Universe people in the distance.
Yep.
That's amazing to see that many people in there. That's really cool.
Yeah, the frame rate was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably wasn't full frame rate, but I didn't feel funny, and I get sick at the drop of a hat. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Right, so we're gonna do our last major attempt here. If Shane, if you're still awake, if you still have battery, and start to wake you up.
A very small amount of battery left.
How very small?
Like 10%, and I've got it on a charger, 2.1 amps. We'll see.
Okay, Matt, how's your battery?
I'm on Rift S, so I've got infinite battery.
Okay, it's worth a shot. We just wanted to talk a little bit, and also I convinced them to do this to give it a test here. So now that we can screen share, that means we can app share, and the three of us worked. If you guys want to head over to Rec Room while I'm babbling and get into the GGJ21, what's the sub room we like? The gym, the first night.
The gym. All right.
Yeah, and I'll go there.
Can I
on
just
PC.
join you, Zach? Is that how it works, or how do we join? How do we connect up there?
You're just gonna watch. We're all gonna be here watching them. So.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, okay. All right.
They're gonna head over there and get positioned. And so long story short, we did Game Jam in VR because we wanted to reclaim some of the social stuff that we couldn't do with COVID, and also as a test too. Once I got the IPD expander in the Quest 2, like it was sharp and comfortable, and I'd done many hours in VR where previously I hadn't because of eye strain. And then the thought came up, well, let's do a whole bunch and just see what happens and see if we die or what happens to us. And we need a 2D mode as a backup. So we picked Rec Room because it's publicly available and it's probably supported, and it supports keyboards, unlike the Oculus one. Horizon does not support a keyboard. So we're gonna jump through a couple hoops here to get. Oops, that's not Steam. Here's Steam. Let's take a look at my Steam library. Of course, it's updating.
Of course.
Basically, does that every time you launch it. Seriously. So what's going to happen here is I'm just going to run the 2D client, and then I'm going to do some fancy bridging of audio, so they can obviously communicate back through my video and audio stream. They won't be able to hear us except for when I shout into the microphone in my laptop, which is why I did that fancy setup with headphones without a microphone. So, and we have tested this and it worked, but that hasn't meant a lot today. What do we got? Rec Room.
That's the Square Enix sale.
No VR.
Squeenix, get your wholesale old school Final Fantasies.
The new Life is Strange. They got to have that in VR.
Seriously, if they did Final Fantasy 14 online,
You guys hearing soothing music?
Yes.
Off and on. Okay, good.
I have no music.
It's a little loud.
Yeah. Did you try re-entering the room? It's too loud. Okay.
Right. No, we'll try again.
I'm not sure what's different about your setup.
I understand. My fault.
Less of the rec room.
So you're
And I'll
going
probably end
for
up killing the
full
audio.
VR Inception here. We're like in VR viewing
Almost,
another
yeah.
VR.
Yeah, from a different metaverse. That's why this is exciting. And it's really weird if I turn around and face the big screen where I spent, 48 hours with these guys in this environment. My brain forgets that I'm in alt space, and I try to grab things that I can't. And
that's funny.
All right, let's see here.
Hilarious.
All right, so I got to ditch these hands, and I got to get serious about keyboard control. And the other thing I got to do is push to talk so that we don't make an audio loop between the universes, because that gets out of hand. So let me think this through entirely here. I'm going to leave my Quest headphones on, and we'll just see how much echoing we get, because I've killed off the main echo, which is the speakers on my laptop that I can't turn off. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Can you guys hear them, or are they too quiet now?
They're pretty quiet.
Good.
Could hear them.
Pretty quiet? Yeah, I'm going to go back to that audio mixer, because really we just killed that because of music. There won't be music now. Okay, one more time with the talking.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
That's great.
Hey guys, can you hear Shane? Can you hear him?
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. So we'll go kind of quick and see how long Shane's battery lasts. But what is this crazy, terrible room we're looking at, guys? All right, so apparently I'm doing the narration. We got in there on Friday night, and we had never done Rec Room before. We're all Unity developers, and we wanted to kick the tires and everything and figure out what we can actually use versus what we hope to be able to use. So we did. We just basically checked out all the features. We tried everything. I think Shane's about to demonstrate a sticky object by sticking it to his head. Maybe. That became one of the harder than it sounds.
There we go. Yep.
There we go. So anything you can build can attach to things. It can attach to people. It can attach to walls. Seemed like a lot. It can ram things in the room by accident. Seemed like a lot of fun there. We ended up not using it entirely because of some of the networking stuff involved. It means it can only be kind of like a visual. It can't really be core gameplay because of the way that things synchronize on the network. And we worked a lot with colliders. Matt, I see you got your blue tire there. Can you describe it? And you might be muted. I don't know if we can hear you. We haven't heard you yet. Or maybe something went wrong. There's this really cool idea. There's these really cool. Okay, Matt's mute. That's fine. We'll keep going. There's these really clever gestures in Rec Room. If you want to join a party, you fist bump. If you want to become friends, you shake hands. If you want to mute yourself, you move your hand too close to your mouth accidentally and then mute yourself without noticing. Whoops. So sometimes that happens. And sometimes you just load into these giant custom rooms and you just can't talk to a couple of the people in the room. So for a while there, we tried to re-enter the room, but we were saving so often that it just became a pain. And sometimes I could talk to Shane and Shane could talk to Matt and Matt couldn't talk to me, stuff like that. So that's where I'm saying, do you want game networking to be running your collaborative environment? No, you don't. But that said, it was a heck of a lot of fun in this room. Once we had stuck things to ourselves, we got this idea of a costume going. If Shane's still alive, he might be dead over there. No, he's alive. He's still with us. That was the first costume. Here, come at me with the arms. Come at me. Super terrifying. And I didn't properly explain Matt's thing.
This is the future.
It really is. One of the things they didn't have, all of their solids had concave colliders. Even if it looked like a bowl, it still had an invisible flat top. And if you worked in Unity, that's how Unity colliders work. So Matt meticulously built a ring out of primitives here, and it could do a lot of good stuff. But what we eventually found is it couldn't do a lot of good stuff while you were walking because, again, the network code and the syncing would override the physics behavior. And then the bucket. The bucket is one of their prefab objects, and it has the best physics of anything in the entire universe. Like, it is so good. It has to be a custom. It can go on things, it can go inside things. You can walk around with a bucket on your head, more or less. Okay, that time you can't. But we decided we're going to use buckets. So we started trying to throw things. Throwing in Rec Room sucks just like it does in all VR. So we gave up on throwing things, but we were fixated on a bucket at this point. We were going to use a costume because they're super amazing. And I think probably the deer antlers kind of stayed with us overnight. And yeah, we just kind of went from there. There's a bunch of physics objects laying in the background. You can build these extrudy things. They do have pretty good colliders on them, but just not while you're walking around, not for gameplay. If you're like if you're sculpting or building a stationary game, it's good stuff. And then somebody want to climb the wall or mantle the cactus? Oh, Matt already did. It's got all these parkour climby things built in that make me absolutely sick. So I kind of vetoed those. But you can do all this running and jumping. And one of the popular genres for custom rec rooms is speed running of a giant obstacle course. And actually, Matt, the back wall is enabled for climbing if you want to just climb it with your hands. God, that's scary. So this is all pretty natural, and it all kind of comes for free. And it was a lot of fun. Like, I got in trouble for laughing too loud at 2 a.m. That was my first night of Game Jam. It was amazing. It was really good.
That's awesome.
And if somebody want to demonstrate the giant body and hopefully shoving not me through the wall, but you can shove Shane or somebody else through the wall. When you're building stuff, all the 3D modelers have this. You can change your body scale to make it easier. You can go smaller or bigger. You do the 2 grip buttons and then you just squeeze your hands or not together. You gotta have the maker pen out. There you go. There we go, giant Shane. This seems pretty fun until he shoves you through a wall because for some stupid reason they left colliders on. And you get shoved through the wall, you get shoved out of your universe, you get shoved through the floor and you fall forever. Yeah, he can, just by dropping the pen. He'll go back to normal size. Or you can go tiny. Rec Room tries to be smart. If you've been shoved through a wall, it'll respawn you back on the other side of the wall, which is assumed to be the inside of the room. But if you've got like incomplete geometry, like we eventually had to open a wall just so we could get back in. Because we were having problems getting shoved out of the universe and having trouble getting back in. But again, that's one of those kind of fun bugs, not the pure frustration. Let's see if I can walk. Why can't I walk? Can someone, Scott's breaking up for me. Can someone repeat it?
I couldn't hear you there.
Scott, I couldn't hear you. Can you talk a little louder, maybe?
Who's the person in the corner of the blue hat?
I can't make it out. You're breaking up. I'm sorry. Sorry, sir.
Okay.
I was just going to show really fast well, here, I'll just click this. You can build all your functionality using simple circuits. And we started attaching buttons just to test them out. So this is going to be like a flashbang or something. This worked pretty well by using oh, those guys can hear me. This is going to function like a flashbang, totally abusing their environmental and fog systems to the max to kind of get that effect to work. That was one of the other things we settled on the first night. And if I can remember how to pull out my pen, I can show you the circuitry. 4, 2, there it is. Real little simple circuits sticking off the side here. Each one's got specialized inputs and documentation, and it's just a bunch of Boolean logic that you to do it. Do you guys want to move to the war room? Is there anything else you wanted to show on here?
Sure. Nope.
Hey, Matt's talking again. Oh, I'll go show the photos quick.
Is he?
I don't know if you guys can make those out.
Yep.
Super clever. There's a Polaroid camera in Rec Room. They've got literally hundreds of millions of photos have been taken. And then you can just stick them to the wall or something. They also show up on the website, so you can share them on social media. Really smart stuff. This room. Nope. Nope. War room. Leave without saving, yes. The GUI is it's evolved for a long time, and now it's trying to serve 2D as well as 3D. So this is our war room. We had this idea that we're going to just connect a bunch of spaces and move between them. We were doing that for a while. We had this other great idea that we were going to do all this whiteboarding. We're going to collaborate in here, and we're going to have whiteboards on every wall, and we're going to fly around and make super big diagrams. They have a quota system for resources, and one of the ones that they are most stingy with is VRAM. So just putting these 2 whiteboards in the room used up something like 40% of all the available. So we wouldn't have gotten far working in here. But I'll show you what we did make. It's not super easy to write in VR, but this was kind of our concept for versioning was these are the different subrooms in this room, I guess. You'd show up in the entryway, come to the war room, you'd go off to the test room and build something crazy, and if it goes bad, then just delete the room. And if it goes well, you'd build whatever you made into like a prefab, package it up, and bring it back to an integration room. So it's sort of like branching, and Git or whatever, but doing that with 3D objects just to keep things under control in a given space. Because it's plenty easy to kind of wreck a space. And I flew up there and made that, and shortly after we decided we're totally done with whiteboards. But right before, we did this diagram to tell Shane what he needed to build for a costume. Right over here. Whoops. This is harder, the touchpad. So I don't know how we got to this. I honestly don't. We knew we were using a bucket, so what kind of words go with bucket, I guess. And the fact that we had deer antlers on the first costume, maybe we got the bovine, we had Bucketaur, and then Shane actually spent a good amount of time and did this great sculpture using just the pen tool in Rec Room here. So you want to pop that on, Shane? Show off your work.
Yeah, and some of the primitives that I think it's all really primitives except for the horns were drawn with that like silly string extruder tool.
Okay. So pretty good stuff. It really is. Yep. Instant win. And we kept up long arms. We eventually had to align the hands with your own hands because it got really confusing trying to work your watch. All your interface happens on a watch in VR and in 2D as well. That's this thing I keep pulling up here. Whoops, I can't pull it up anymore.
I go on grip.
Yep. And then Matt made a simulation of the Matrix here. You want to demonstrate, Matt? Then I'll narrate. I'm not going to go over there because I'll get sick, but you probably couldn't hear me. You want to demonstrate the Matrix?
Sure. There you go.
So we wanted to work with teleporters. That's Matt. There he is.
Nice.
There he goes. I can't see him. So we wanted to work with some of these superpowers and teleporting and catching people that fall off buildings to respawn them, stuff like that. So just a really fast prototype, but you're in VR, so why not play with scale? So he made himself giant, built a couple cubes, and whoops, he didn't make it that time. So he gets teleported out. I get super sick when I go do that, so I'm not going to even attempt it on a keyboard and this whole contraption. Do we lose Shane yet? Not yet?
Nope.
Good deal.
I'm good.
One thing I want to still the Minotaur. Mr. Minotaur, can you demonstrate the little physics toy in the corner? Can you just pick up the ball and stick it on the ramp? It's right there. Or Matt's got it. So me being me.
It's funnier if he does it.
It is. Whoops. So me being me, I really wanted to just, of course, build Donkey Kong in VR again. I've done that before.
I like that.
So for Shane, he's seeing this smooth interpolation. It's rolling. It's doing a repeatable pattern. For everybody else in the room, something else happens. In this case, it doesn't stay on the ramp. Like that ramp is exactly set up that you can drop it anywhere at the top, and it falls down and goes against that bumper on the bottom. We're seeing it bounce and go backward, all kinds of stupid shit. So physics was straight out because even the visuals didn't repeat. And there was a couple too, because we had these discussions like, well, it worked before. I swear, leave again. Yeah.
Can't hear you. You're talking. Zach, are you talking? We can't hear you if you are.
Everything's in there.
Demo's finally getting good.
I can't remember how the state we left it.
Lots is glitching out.
Bucket. You'll have to equip the costume. Yeah.
He's gone.
I think we lost Zach.
Yeah, it's interesting that we're still seeing the other stuff.
His screen, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here is where we let's get it.
What's happening here? You using VR set? Oh great, I can't hear you. Let's see. Shit. Can anybody else hear me? Talk back.
I can.
You're back. Yay.
Yep. Assuming you can hear me, I'm going to reboot the quest, but we're not going to wait for it. We're just going to have them demo. Because I can talk to them, and they can talk to you. We'll roll with that.
I can hear you, Zach.
Yeah, we are hearing you now. Maybe you can't hear us.
Cheater.
What's going on? Yeah.
Microphone.
Cheater.
Birds are real loud.
Okay. Oh, finally I can get some stuff off my chest. So if you can hear this, this is our starting area. And because of logistics of the game and lack of time, we built this force field to force people to stay in this like starting area. Whoever picks up the costume, it starts the game and it merges everyone over to one team and puts the Bucketaur in their own team. And then it spins up the game logic and it teleports us to random spots. I think we can. Yeah, you'll have to move around and kind of be the camera.
Hey, we can hear you. Just keep going.
All right. You want to be the Bucketaur, Shane, or you want me to?
I think you should. You're better at that kind of VR. I'll get sick.
All right.
So.
Jump into that box quick. You, Zach. Yeah, just so you don't get on the buck. All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Game starts in 3 seconds. Bucket.
Did he say bucket?
I think so.
Back.
You guys hear me? You guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Literally.
All right. So. So we've got a Bucketaur with strong jump abilities and climbing and stuff, taking on a larger team of people with guns, and he attacks them with an insta-kill death bucket. So relatively straightforward logic, but challenging to actually wire up the circuits.
Well, that looked like a hit.
Sure.
Here comes Bucketaur. And unfortunately, I can't kill that background audio, so you'll have to hear the crickets. Yeah. So he killed him. So we did play test this once with friends from Austin Virtual League, and we're going to do it again on the 5th. So I'll send out a link for that as well.
Oh, nice.
PCVR. And there's a lot of comforts. you know, I turn on the blinders when I jump and that kind of stuff so that I actually don't get sick. And I think it actually helps too to have these solid color ground because there isn't like actual detail section, you know, flowing by your peripheral vision.
All right.
Any random questions on the rec room stuff? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. I'm gonna mute you guys for a second because I can't hear the people in the room. Hang on.
Okay.
There we go.
How many nodes? How many nodes of code?
Oh, for the circuits?
Yeah.
You know, probably like 20. It's really about figuring out how to these like pass a -1 to assign the whole team. That's not real documented. Things like that.
Gotcha.
Oh right. I'm not focus. All right, we'll just
The Windows update kicking in.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you guys muted, but if you want to come back into alt space, I think we're wrapped with the rec room. They probably said something. Really, this is just, I just really wanted to test this, that we can do app stream, and obviously with or on the video, but basically worked. So why this is kind of exciting once we got this running is we can and I am extremely bandwidth challenged, so I think it would work better for other people.
You need to be back on stage for us to hear you better, or?
Oh, am I quiet? Yeah.
You are super quiet.
Is that better?
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So really the takeaway here is, you know, for the meetup, we can now stream local VR apps. We can stream anything basically, and you just want to do it at my. And it's responsive, and I don't think we do this audio back and forth very often. We just do some kind of local solution, you know, like I was doing with headphones and microphones, but I wanted to be able to talk into the other app. Kind of an extreme case, but yeah. So now that Shane and Matt are back, easier to talk to them. But people are asking about the circuits. There is actually a version 2 of the circuits. One of the reasons we picked circuits 1, the old version, was that you make prefab and move them between rooms. Circuits 2 isn't allowed to do that yet. But Matt, you looked into circuits 2. You got the super high level version.
Yeah, so it seems like the circuits 1 is like binary circuits. So they're super, like they're.
Let's put you on megaphone.
Okay. You got it, or I got it? I got it.
I can probably do it.
Can you hear me now? Good.
Yep. Good.
So circuits 1.0 are binary circuits, and it doesn't. There's no loops. There's nothing complicated. Like if you want to make a loop, you have to like create a logical loop. So you have to like find all the OR chips and like find everything, put it all together, and then it's a giant pain. But there's some gameplay chips, which is a lot of stuff we use. There's some environmental chips which we use, and then you know the gameplay chips are like if you want to set up how you take damage, like you use a player damage chip and you wire it up to your game loop, you know, kind of thing. So you're in control of how everything flows as far as game functionality. And there's a basic amount of features that are just there that you can use.
Yeah.
And then in V2, it's like you can make functions and you can make, you know, it has a really complicated logic and it's floating point based instead of set of integer based. So it's like, it's pretty, you know, there's like sensors, you know, hit detection and stuff like that. We have very limited hit detection V1.0. But just because they currently consider V2 to be beta, it's restricted from some use cases. Like if you just built the whole thing in one world, you'd be fine, you know. But the way we were building stuff, we were making like little contained pieces and experimenting on our own, and then bringing all those together and made a bigger thing at the end. And someday V2 will be able to do that, but right now they're just, because they're considering it experimental, they haven't enabled it. Because what the interesting thing about they call them inventions. So you put a bunch of logic and objects together, you can package that up, and then you can put it onto the store, and so then other people can use your inventions or even buy your inventions if you decide it's good enough to sell it for like in-game currency.
Okay.
But you have your own inventions that you can then, you know, spawn in your worlds in your rooms that you create. So
yeah, and just a little background on Rec Room if you're not super up to date. Just yesterday, the big news article is that they're valued at over $1 billion now, because after Roblox became more valuable than Electronic Arts, Rec Room was the next viable candidate for the Roblox bubble. So they raised 100 million. They were valued at 1 billion. Two different numbers, but
wasn't it 1.6 billion?
Yeah, I remember the number 1.25. It was over $1 billion though, for sure.
Yeah.
But really interesting. The place is overrun with children, but they've been on top of this because they've been growing so fast. You can do the entire experience with private instances. You can travel around with only your friends, so you can avoid the children. Yeah, and most of the worlds there, you can create a copy and start editing them. Not stuff that individuals have created. They generally will keep it locked down, but all the worlds that were created by the company, you can copy them and take them apart and look at them and do stuff that way.
Is there a Bitcoin miner yet?
Yeah, put the two bubbles together, you really get rich.
If only Android devices had the power to do Bitcoin mining, you could just go find a landfill and dig up 400,000 old Android phones. Put them
Exactly. Do it on Android. Yeah, Android just flat out blocks it.
Interesting. Real quick, they've got 1 million active VR users, not just users, active, 1 million active VR users. Yet that is a tiny fraction of their user base. They get the most users on mobile because, again, it's all children.
But they also support console too. So there's people who are playing
Xbox,
on Xbox,
PlayStation 4,
PlayStation.
And who knows where it's going to go. What I would say though is if you're interested in building stuff, like really that Friday night was amazingly fun, just goofing around in there and testing things and having that all networked out of the box. What became less fun was trying to finish something. That's when you get frustrated when you have roadblocks or bugs. So I'd say, get in there and build stuff and stop when it's not fun.
The physics clock rate is really slow.
Yeah.
So it's like when you try to do anything that involves physics, and we had tons of problems with the voice system. Like you would zone into a room and then one person could talk and everyone else was muted. And then you're just like, log out and come back in. Maybe it's fixed. Maybe it's not. Partway through working, somebody would just log off. We ended up just turning on Discord and disabling the audio, and that just worked better.
Yeah, and it is possibly Matt and I had the worst of it. We're both double natted at our houses. It maybe just
terrible. I don't know. I don't have these problems to deal with it.
I don't either. Yeah, and then we'd save. It was always a save that would trigger a problem once the world got big enough.
We did discover too that like what was the deal? Like you don't want to send out invite codes to a room until it's done.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, it creates like a weird limbo where like an alternate version of the room like exists in the world, but you can't really see it or get to it. But sometimes you end up at it. So when people zone in, they'll end up in two different rooms. So
yeah, we did
it was causing problems.
Christmas social and Rec Room because the invite codes are so easy. Literally, you just give somebody a 6-digit number. They go into Rec Room and punch it in on their watch, and then they're with you. But when you create one of those codes, it builds an instance of the room that's locked in time, and you don't want to modify the room after that point because then the two timelines will diverge. And the code goes to the old room when you built the code, and nobody else can go to that room. And we saw that during the social. And because I was in rec room all weekend, I just kept asking questions to support too, and they kind of confirmed that's sort of by design, and no, it's not going to change. So, but you can have private clubs with private lists. They've got a lot of stuff built in there to divide up their groups of people that don't want to be together. So they're well on their way to becoming Facebook of VR before Facebook gets there, but it'll be all children.
Yeah, mostly. We did an experiment in Horizons also to get a taste of what that was like, and I think Horizons is a little more polished. Like their editing tools are more polished. I think rec rooms are easier to use, like speed wise. Like the pen is actually surprisingly powerful of a tool. Like being able to just like pull up an interface, you can float a panel, you can spawn objects and do that kind of stuff and place it in the world. And then the positioning tools are pretty nice. It's got like snap to grid. You can make custom grid sizes and stuff like that. And even though circuits were quirky, I still think they were somewhat better than Horizons logic. I think Horizons logic was maybe more powerful, but it was harder to use.
Yeah,
and we went in considering that we would maybe use the desktop client because then we could use keyboard and mouse to do stuff, and then that felt tedious actually compared to just using the pen. So we ended up just doing all of the development and all of the creation right in VR, and it was fine.
Oh.
Yeah, and one of the things I said, it was an experiment to see if we could stay in VR and then go to 2D if we couldn't. Longest stretch I did was a Saturday. It was 13 hours with a break, for meals, two meal breaks and 13 hours. In the headset, felt totally fine. On the Quest, obviously, you got to augment the power. I have a battery in the back here, which got the weight off of my cheeks.
And I have the battery head strap.
Yep. Yeah. So it's doable, but really, what do you want to do in VR? Certain things. What do you want to do in 2D? Different other things. The one huge example was once we got to a big world, we'd just lose objects, and we would physically have to wander around and try to find them. If they got shoved through the ground, if they got shoved behind a wall, like where did it go? And without a nice 2D outliner listing everything in the scene, like it takes a while to find objects.
There was like you'd spawn an invention and it's 3/4 of a mile straight up in the air, a little teeny speck. Or maybe it's that plus it's behind some kind of geometry, and then you're just like looking around for it when you spawn it.
You fly over there and get it and carry it back.
When somebody makes a new ground plane and then forgets to make it not interactable or grabbable. And then somebody grabs the ground plane by accident and chucks it way up in the sky.
We put Shane.
Sounds specific.
Yeah,
it was
the
me
ground was
a couple
problem.
Times. When we were creating content, the default room, so you start out with a gym room, and it has a floor plane and walls. And the first thing we did is like delete all that. But for our ground plane, we took the existing plane and we stretched it out to be like a giant, plane essentially that was the ground. And when we started placing objects, they would like be floating a little bit. So I unlocked the ground and moved it up, and then it's easy to just click on stuff randomly, and if you have the move tool activated, it just like literally will select the object and move it. And so I think it was either Zach or Shane, one of them, after I had done that, grabbed it accidentally and tilted the ground like this, and we slid off down into the oblivion. And
that would probably be the other expert tip for anybody going in is there's an invisible ground. Just use that for a while until you get near the end, because that can't be moved. It can occlude objects. Just stand on the invisible ground and use that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just we managed to lock it, but then when you mouse or point at something, it gets an outline highlight. And it took us an entire day. We're in the desert scene. And we're like, yeah, when I look in this direction, like the sky's bright green. Like, what kind of bug is that? Stand here. Oh yeah, I see it. And eventually you figure out if you look in that direction and you aim your hand down, it's bright green. If you look in that direction, aim your hand up away from the ground, everything looks normal because this giant ground was getting a highlight and an outline that was occluding the world. Just dumb little stuff, that you learn over time, but Well, cool. Any other random questions? Yeah, it should be on the 5th. I'll definitely send something out. Let me make Scott louder because I'm still having trouble hearing him.
He's breaking up pretty bad.
Bucketaur.
I can't. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sitting through all the slowness.
This didn't require any special account level or anything. This is just like room
all space
user.
Rec room? Yeah, you just make a room and you're the admin.
Cool.
And then you can, if you start watching the videos, there's, what's her name? What's the girl's name? The gal's name that did she says her name in every video, so if you watch them, you'll know. But so you have owners, and the word she came up with, which we jokingly used the entire weekend, was coners. It's co-owners. So she decided to say coners the entire time that she did her videos. So there's permissions basically where you can invite other people to your creations, and you can set their creator status for it. So like whether they're an admin or coner or just a regular player or user, and then that gives them different abilities in terms of what tools they can use and stuff like that.
There's probably 24 different starter rooms to take a look at.
Yeah, there is
Something
one
like
that's
that.
like a escape the room starting point. And it's got like little interactions. You can. Rock, got a question?
Oh, I'm the best, worst, or worst, best human because of a bunch of tech problems. I was trying to be on the Plug My Thing, and I couldn't get my app to work for 2 days in a row. And I was like, I'll get back to my home console and I'll do it. But I've been busy doing a lot of actual, not attached to my computer, or which includes, by the way, in a week and a day, I'm launching a new EP from a music project that I do called Furcoat, FIRCOAT, at furcoat.bandcamp.com. And if anyone's interested in video game soundtrack kind of music, that's kind of what I do. I'm trying to do a lot of other things, but that's like what I've done the most of, and I'm trying to make something happen. So I didn't mean to be all like, oh, hey, look at me or whatever, but I've been timid about waving the hey, look at me stick, and I should actually be a little more brave about it. So I wanted to mention that because I got to go, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. Loved this whole presentation. I love you guys, and I miss you. I wish I could see you in person.
You're right. Thanks.
See ya. Does anybody need the link again?
The
This is recorded.
FIR.
Furcoat.bandcamp.com is where you'll find a couple of releases that I've done before on that, but I'm making a new one on April 1st.
Gotcha.
Well, you guys are awesome. Ciao, bunga.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take
Hey,
care.
good luck.
Thank you.
So Shane, your battery must be holding up pretty good with the charger.
Yep.
It's fighting back the draw.
Yep, just barely.
I think. Any other random questions around Rec Room? Like I said, we'll try to get in there on the 5th with Austin Virtual League. They did play test it one other time for us. We got a couple of tweaks that we learned
some
from
balancing as a result of that, yeah, with various weapons.
It's a lot more fun with a group of people. It's surprisingly fun.
Scott, do you want to try, if you got the time, do you want to try re-entering the room and see if that fixes your audio?
See you later.
I think he agreed. I can't tell. Why is it so hard?
He's speaking Chewbacca or something.
What's weird about the audio bug is it like cuts out every other syllable. It's not like Doesn't
Yeah.
drop.
Clean.
It's like
I think it's like the Vorbis audio compression just has like some artifacting, and if it goes off the rails, it's audio, but it's not. You can't actually understand it. But that's what almost everything uses as a voice codec. So
interesting.
All right, I do need to get going though. So, but
Yep.
thanks.
Thanks.
That was cool. Yep.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I was out I just lost my internet when we were talking about something about the merging of what was it? Company called Wave Wave something. Oh yeah. It was a merger of two companies or something they made. It was in your slide. I just like to I want to know what it was. I'm very interested.
Was it in the early section when we were looking at the links and this was about the AR? Yeah.
Yeah, was it
So there's
Wave or
couple,
Len?
here I got it in front of me in real life. I'll send out those links, but I can check it real fast for you too on the other browser.
I gave everyone megaphones, so don't mute yourself.
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Oh yeah.
What does that mean?
Means we can hear each
There's
other.
no drop off.
What?
It means we can hear each other. In theory.
What? That's a good joke. I like that one.
No, literally, you're really quiet. Is it just me? Am I quiet?
I can hear you.
You're fine. I gave you megaphone though, so everyone except Mike has megaphone.
Is your headset quiet?
He's muted.
You can hear me now, right, Zach?
Yep, you sound good.
You're still breaking up?
No. Good.
Great. Yeah, I just needed to go out and come back. I think it happened when my controller battery died or something.
Yeah, I had to do it twice.
So the thing you're asking about, the two companies are Lux Excel and Wave Optics. Lux Excel 3D prints lenses already for prescription glasses, and Wave Optics makes waveguides, skinny ones. But I'll send out that link. It's like about an hour, and they just talk about what they do and then what they built together. And,
do they make the one that's based on the dots? It's like a dot pattern that's on the lens. Okay.
It's a traditional waveguide, so it's like a HoloLens.
So it goes in from the top and does a 90-degree into the eye.
Yeah, and in this one in particular, the guy just beats the point home that we must inject light through the temple area. So it comes in through the stems of the glasses and turns sideways and goes down in front of your eyes. It's impressive how small it is. Like, it looks like normal glasses. It honestly does. But then you learn it's green 640 by 480. Still, that's a lot better than focals but north. Like a lot
Did
better.
Lux get their lenses from 3M?
Nope, that's their main thing. They've got a bunch of patents that they brag about. They 3D print them, which means that they can do kind of arbitrary shapes, and especially in this case, they can make a void in the middle because the waveguides can't touch anything. They need an air gap around them.
That's right.
So
you did cover that. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hollow glasses on top of being prescription glasses. They're actually hollow inside. You taking off, Patrick? Is that what this means?
That's right. Good night to all.
Good night.
You, Patrick.
I can't float away in this space, I don't think. So I'll just.
I think flying's not enabled.
It is if you pull out your pen.
Go enable your flying and you can fly. Matt and I were
Pull out your
flying
pen.
before.
Go to settings.
Not right now.
Go to items, and then go to flight tool and spawn that sucker. And it looks like a purple cigar. And if you grab it,
that was really fast.
Button.
There you go.
And then if you lift up, you use your trigger finger, you fly away.
Oh.
And you can go really, really high.
Are you in VR? Or are you doing 2D, Ryan?
He's in 2D.
I'm in 2D. Yeah, I can't handle it. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a little harder to fly in 2D. Not as fun.
So you can control it, and if you turn off collisions, you can do this. Zach was doing this yesterday. Let's see if I can find that. Toggle stage blockers.
That's right.
Mute.
It only turns it off for the individual, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my whole plan was I was just going to do this really as slow as I could.
Mm.
And then just keep talking like nothing's happening. Pretend I don't notice.
That's pretty good.
It's hard to go slow without laughing too. But yeah, it's pretty good controls. Turn the plate off there.
Whoa.
Well, it mostly worked. How bad was the video? Did it get better after I went 720p?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, it's purely bandwidth then at my house. That's disappointing.
It's weird if it like streams it to you and then you stream to us. I guess that makes sense.
It's like triple encoded at that point.
It's doing this like what we do when we do video events. Like, so one of the things, since we're all remote at Pixel Farm, one of the parts of our business is we have video editors and color correctors who have customers come in, sit in the room with them, and critique the output. That's something that we can't do. So we had to use streaming services, and so basically the editor's computer streams out to a server. And then that server is basically an endpoint that can stream out to multiple simultaneous people at the same time. And that's effectively what's happening here. So when he clicks connect, it's just enabling his content to come to the screen, and then it's connecting everyone in the room to that feed so that they're seeing the stream that's coming out.
Mm-hmm. And when we had just three people in here, it was kind of flawless from my house, right?
It was working fine, but but your output isn't going to every single person. Your output is only going to the Microsoft servers. So as long as your feed works.
Something about having people talking at me was too much for my internet.
And that is every single, depending on how they do it.
Yep.
It's either, I'm guessing that everyone's voice is a separate voice feed. It's like a mono as high compression as it can be, so it's low bandwidth, and then the client is mixing all the audio together. So that is, the less people there are, the less overhead that there is in that case.
Yeah.
But like in some video streaming services, they work that way too, where every single person is a video stream, and it has to, composite them all together. But there are ones where there's an application running on a server. It takes in all the video feeds, and then the video feed that's out is a composite. So it's just one video feed with all the video and audio merged into it. And then multiple people can connect to that, and then it's just one stream. And so those work good on mobile devices, whereas if you had multiple simultaneous individual streams of audio and video, that would be something where it would work okay on a desktop. But the shittier the hardware is, the more work it is, more CPU, more GPU.
And I think this one's a mix. I think people near you are peer-to-peer, and then it goes into a global mix if they're farther away, like with the background noises.
Oh.
So that's maybe like a technique where if you just mute the room, it's higher performance. There's only one audio stream.
Ignore everybody. It worked great.
It's like everyone's muted to save bandwidth, and you have to like raise your hand saying, if you need anything, we'll unmute that one person. The low bandwidth way.
So what I was trying to say before is there's 6 of us now. Can we go play in your rec room?
Everybody would need an account. Might be good to just do it with the Austin group, because it does scale. Like we had 12 people in there last time we did it.
Sweet.
Yeah, and it's
the
kind of thing where yep. Well, only one costume, but yeah, multiple people with Bucketaur powers.
So when you say you got you got to sign up. It's like we did for the Christmas thing.
We'll did we do a sharing code for the last Austin Virtual League?
Gotcha.
Or did we just invite them?
I don't remember. I think we just invited them, or we did a portal
or
something.
Knowing what we know now is we'll invite you. There's how does that work? We'll have to look into that. If we do a friends code or they call it a meetup code. If we do a meetup code, we won't be able to change the space
Yeah, we
necessarily.
have to clone the room first, make a meetup code for that room,
Yeah.
and then
So a little bit TBD, but there will definitely be instructions. It's not super locked down like this space is. It's not as hard as getting in here.
There's a couple issues right now too, where like the buckets don't reset after the game ends, so somebody has to go through and clean up the board, and basically has to like pick up the bucket and hit something with it so that it despawns and respawns back at its starting point. And that's just because we didn't have enough
Sounds
time
like
to
a great
finish
idea
all
for
the.
a movie. The guy that has to go set up the game again for somebody else.
Yep.
New job.
There was what was that movie that was getting made where an actor
Vampire?
figures out that he's an NPC inside of a video game like Grand Theft Auto?
Oh,
Yeah,
Ryan
yeah.
Reynolds. What's his name? This guy, what's his name? Deadpool guy in it.
Yeah. Deadpool guy.
Or does
Yeah,
it-
yeah.
One of those guys. I was
And
gonna
that
say
movie
Ryan
like
Reynolds,
came
but
and left, right? It just like it disappeared
did,
right
did
away.
it release? Did it
I think
release?
it released.
It didn't.
And I think I remember seeing commercials for it, and then it just disappeared after a while.
COVID.
Huh.
Everybody.
Maybe it
was
never
going
really
hiding.
released. Maybe it was a COVID
Maybe.
thing.
But yeah,
Well,
that's
it's a
one of the
common
fun things of working in a 3D space without 2D windows to help you is there's a lot of walking. But you can change your scale to walk faster. You can get big and walk fast.
I think the guns. So the guns are instances, and they're tied to the gun spawners. So every place where you respawn or you spawn in the start or respawn after a death has a gun dispenser. And so if you hit the button, you can just spam the button, and it'll spawn. It'll pull guns that are not being currently used by humans, and respawn them in the gun spawner. So you can just grab one on your way out. And it resets it back to its 2 or 3 shots. The 2 or 1 shots. I think we have a couple bows with derpy arrows, and then we've got like a 2-shot musket or a 2-shot. What do you call it? Is it a musket? It's like the little pirate gun, you know. And then we have
I
like
saw
a
that
big
you were
elephant,
doing.
and then we have like a big elephant gun that's a single shot. That's basically like if you get hit
Shotgun.
at the Bucketaur with it all head on, it's an instant kill essentially. But if you get hit by shrapnel from the side, it's maybe glancing. You might do like 50% or something. But if somebody picks up, there's only 2 of them. But if they pick up both of those and charge at you and hit you with the spread, you're just instantly dead. So they're a single shot. So then the only way to get them back is to go back to a gun spawner somewhere and recreate it, you know, by hitting the button.
But the fact you're working in a running engine means the bugs are sometimes really good. Like just one of the boulders didn't get set to non-grabbable. So someone figured out that they could use it as armor.
One of the
push people away.
Bucketaurs grabbed it. He saw someone else used it and put it back, and then the Bucketaur saw that he could do that, so he ran and grabbed it and he picked up a bucket. So nobody could shoot him because the collider on the rock would deflect all the bullets. So then he was an invincible rock Bucketaur running around just killing people. Stuff like that.
Game.
And we were like, "Yep, gotta lock down all the rocks now."
Which means you manually go click on each rock and see if it's locked down.
Oh my god.
You can multi-select, but you can't multi-view properties.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all that kind of stuff is where you wish you were in Unity Editor.
I wish I could have just wrote code for the circuits.
Yeah,
would have been so
that too.
much
That's the
worse.
other time. Yep. Yep.
Like, how do I make this out of a binary circuit? I don't know.
But if you got unlimited time and you like puzzles, like there's a whole wiki full of circuits that do things that aren't supported. Like if you hook enough of them together in a ring, you can make a memory store and forward system.
After we figured out we wanted to use costumes for some way because they were funny.
Yep.
And then we couldn't use physics because it was janky.
Yeah.
Then we were just like, okay, then what can we do? And we just started going through like the environmental effects and going, how can we make a gameplay element that like made the fog turn on, or teleported somebody to a spot or whatever. And then what were the circuits or the chips that we could use to make circuits that would even make that functional? And I think it took us the first day, maybe the first day and a half, to just nail down that stuff. And then we just tried to make little elements and put them all together at the end.
Yep. Yeah. Which was the part that wasn't fun.
We were trying to make it so that everyone else was in fog and the Bucketaur had clear vision, and so he could like sneak up on people with the bucket. And you can throw the bucket, and Shane has had some amazing throws where he just like put the bucket on somebody's head for jumping off of a building, jumping off of a butte or something. But if you just run into the bucket, it's an instant kill. So it's like the bucket is the bucket of death. It's just anything that touches it, it's game over. So then we had to even out the point system too, like how much was a bucket worth versus a kill with a weapon.
Yeah, trying to balance
out the Bucketaur's score versus the 5 or 10 people that were playing against him. I think we got it to a good point. It was at least fun, if not.
Yeah,
didn't feel like any one person was overpowered.
Do one last test and then memorialize it, get it back on the Game Jam website.
Yeah. Put up a code for it.
Well, I don't think it's likely, but you can clone the room and dissect it, which is kind of our equivalent of letting them at the guts.
Yeah.
I don't think it's likely.
We had this great idea of, so you could take multiple circuits and you could combine them into a circuit board, and it sounds awesome in theory, but what it did is create this thing that was just broken all the time. Like when you spawned a new one in. When you spawned a new one in a new room, it didn't really work.
Yeah. So you can collapse all the circuits into a little
giant
thing.
Wall of circuits would just compress down to this little black thing with a little microprocessor symbol on it, and it said Bucketaur on it. It was pretty entertaining.
And then
but
it's some kind of local to global translation error when you respawn that object as a second copy. That's the thing that was a mile away in the sky that Matt was referring to. Every time.
So then you're like
mile away, fly up there and grab it.
And then you had to like open the circuit board to get at the chips inside of it, and then like it was all kinds of a clusterfuck of like if you disconnected the connection, you couldn't reconnect it, and so it was basically impossible. Once you were put it together, it was done. You couldn't really change it anymore. It was basically it was broken if you did anything to it, and then it was just kind of broken anyway. So then we ended up with just. There's a whole wall of that red canyon. There's just all these chips with wires going across them all.
Yeah. Just go to the out of way place and build your logic.
We took their like this sign component, and we like put that above stuff and like typed in words so we knew what sections were what. And there's like buttons that say monster on.
Yep.
And some of the inputs, like they take a player ID based on whatever player hit the button. So that was kind of like for debugging. We just had like buttons you just spammed that would like fire off game mechanics to see if they worked or not. It was entertaining.
Yeah, parts of it.
It was tedious, but
yeah. But really, just going in there and creating stuff was super fun. Finishing stuff was not fun. We'll finish stuff.
I think Circuits 2 would be good. You'd be able to do things easier because you can use a normal logic process that you would normally do with code more.
Yeah,
because you have more nodes. Not just like, how do I XOR this integer to this at the end? It's like it was just tedious.
Yeah,
it worked. It was simple. I think it is going to be like my Perl, where I don't know about you guys, if anyone's ever written Perl before, but the day I write it, it all makes perfect sense to me. And then the next day I look at it and I'm like, who the fuck wrote this? This makes no sense.
That's how all Perl looks.
I know.
The feature.
Nice. Sounds like somebody needs to take a
I
class.
literally
Have a good
wrote this
one.
code
Great meeting.
within 24 hours, and the
you
next day
taking off?
I cannot understand how it works.
Yeah,
See
I'm
you guys
taking
later.
off too.
See ya.
Should we wrap the stream up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a while ago.
I thought we were offline.
I thought at the point that there's typing coming out of your mouth that we weren't streaming.
Maybe we shouldn't have been.
Oh well.
All right, thanks for
So
watching.
Ryan, did you